Right, so street talk this week then. Gemma, I assume you would like to take the lead on the first story tonight, which is going to be well, last week it was LSD Seat. This week I'm just calling it LS Steve for Stephen. Well, Steve McDonald. But so you're happy to say that one in a little bit?
Yeah. I just talked about it.
The listeners don't know that. It's smooth, no transition. I'm then going to talk about the consent storyline. We had a few potential storyline titles for this.
This was very sensitive, so we got our best man for the job, Michael, to talk about that story.
Yeah, I'm going to do it real justice. I really, really am. I asked you for some for opinions on which storyline title we should go for with this, and you picked explicit consent warning.
Yeah.
I quite liked.
You've got loads of them, just read them all out.
I've deleted them all. My favourite was Barlow, the gauge of consent. Because you got to really think about that one. What else did I... Oh, Errant Aaron as well was quite a good one, I thought.
Something about Sanford.
Well, that's his just surname.
I know.
Aaron Sanford. I don't know. We'll go with explicit consent warning for that one because that's almost respectful. Then we got the pull my finger storyline, Gemma. Fascinating this week. Followed by the look who's stalking. Then a lot of this week was just like little bits, wasn't it?
It was bitty.
The Stephen storyline was where everything was kind of driving through. The Paul storyline was not that interesting, to be fair, and that kept on going through the week. Then we had stuff like the Faye storyline. I can't think of a good storyline title. The best I got up to for this one. Are you looking at that one a little bit confused? Miley Face, like smiley face. It was rubbish. I'm not happy with this one. No, you're going to get a for that one. Kill Bill is next because I think Bill Webster could be on the way out. Slightly bit of a story happening there. We had the Darian's brother storyline. We had a bit of the Slapper storyline still.
What's the Slapper storyline?
Beth slapping Hope. Couple of scenes in tonight's episode, presumably leaning into something next week.
I was confused about which meaning of the word.
She is both, I'm going to say.
No, she isn't.
Well,
you can't call a lady that anyway.
No, I can't. No matter how short her... What?
Oh, give me the pillow, for goodness sake.
Oh, what? Sorry.
Thank you. You took my elbow
Take your
pillow
away. There you go. Get your elbow pillow. So, with your nicely rested elbow, Gemma, I'm going to pass it over to you.
I was trying to do a little subtle, like, point. Like, you can't.
No,
I just had to draw attention to it again.
Sorry. Right, LS Steve story, Gemma. What's old Stephen Reed been up to this week? Is that your evil Stephen Reed laugh?
No, that's just my normal laugh. When I watched Niz, I was cackling all the way through. Thursday's episode, I was having the time of my life. Unlike Stephen, he would have had a much better time if he just stayed in bed. That's every day though, isn't it? Monday, Peter and Carla are talking about...
Sorry, my very first note of the week is rubbish. Peter and Carla chat about what they're going to do today.
Yeah.
And it only gets better from there.
Elaine's excited because she wants to buy this flat at Red Bank and she wants them both to move in together. Did she say, is this already established? Or do we
No, I don't think so.
She wants to buy this flat because she sold her house and now she's living with
Bill and Ben. Oh, no, sorry, she's with Sally and Tim, isn't she?
She wants to move out because they're cramping her style.
Yeah, indeed.
And so she's like, "Oh, come with me. Tim's supposed to come, but he's a loser. You come instead." And
he's not in the programme this week, so it's going to have to be you, Stephen.
I'm too busy at work, says Stephen. But in the factory, he does this business work job, and he tells Sarah he's gonna. He likes it being just them two, and it didn't really occur to me for some reason until today that they obviously worked together when they were in Milan.
Yeah. They
well,
worked together for years.
I knew that she worked for the business, but I kind of didn't really think about what that actually meant.
Yeah.
Now I'm surprised that somebody like Stephen, who I assume is a businessman of some skill, worked with Sarah for years on end and still thinks she's got any kind
worth
of
banking on. Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Why isn't he going up to Gail and saying, "What happened? What happened to
I thought you were going to say, going up to Gail and say, "Look, do you want to come into business with me?"
You might as well. I don't take any idiot. So he's like, "Would you like to make this situation a little more permanent?" And he goes to look at to go to the workers in the break area. He's like, "I got a pretty radical idea. there's a clause in the shareholders' contracts that if you've got to stay in the business and you got 50% and Carla's got 50%, so
that was what he was having a
her
look through at the end of last week, wasn't it? He found all the contracts about who owns what. I thought you might have known that before, but never mind.
It seems a bit of a silly idea to have a 50-50 split on who owns what.
Well, I'm sure we said that at the time.
So Carla got 50%, and all of the, I think most of the factory workers, except for the new people, like Faye and Michael and...
I think there's probably quite a lot that don't actually have a share in the factory. Yeah, I don't think Beth does. Who does?
No, everybody else does, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, but there isn't very many other people left, is there? Who is there? There's
None of the people, all the people that can talk
Sally?
have got one, and the people that can't talk aren't allowed. Even though technically they could have a say, because they can just do a cross.
You're saying that Dirk is not a silent partner in the factory?
I don't think he is. So... he's like, Carla's having trouble with her mental illness problems, and we want to help her get through it, so let's get rid of her. So basically his plan is that she's having a tough time, and in order to alleviate her burden, they're going to kick her out of the business, but he's kind of like couching it as protecting her from herself. And it doesn't really work, does it?
No.
Michael and Faye are like, that doesn't
Mrs.
sound
Barlow.
right. And so Faye texts her surreptitiously. And Stephen keeps going, it's only temporary, it's just till she's better, we need to help her. So they have this ballot, and he's got
Vote of no confidence.
He's got beautifully printed out little ballot. I mean, I think they're a bit big.
And that's on good cardstock.
Cardstock, A5,
colour
printed. What a waste of resources. No wonder Carla was like getting territorial over the printer when she could see that they were lurking around after dark. She's like, you better not be printing stuff out on my fancy ivory cardstock. So he says it needs to be unanimous. So they misunderstand him and they unanimously vote to keep her.
Yes.
So he's a bit annoyed. Everyone looks smug, especially Izzy. Izzy looks dead pleased with herself, doesn't she? So they all vote to keep Carla
the first
on.
useful thing she's done in that factory for about 3 years, isn't it?
Well, useful for whom? He's like, oh, you're so loyal. I hope you've made the right decision. And he gets really peed off with
You were a bit confused
Sarah.
about this the first time we watched, didn't you? Because you thought that they voted.
I didn't see the bits of paper.
No, I didn't either, but I didn't know.
Well, he kind of looked. He went, I hope you've made the right decision, and he looked all sad. But I thought that's the face he would have made if he'd won. He's not going to go, ha 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 ha, you stupid idiot.
Pause, now Underworld is mine, all mine.
Right, so he's mad because Sarah just stood there gaping like
well,
a
even
fish.
she got a vote, and even she voted for Carla, didn't she?
Did she?
Yeah.
What a...
Everybody did.
Well, it didn't work. So then we get Mr. Havisham. He comes to Underworld and he's followed by Carla, and they're ready for work. And Carla sends Stephen to clean down the work surfaces. Then she finds out about this. Well, she knows about this vote
because Faye texted
her, and he's like, "I'm not going to trust you. You backstabber. I'm going to kick you out, and you're fired." Which is correct. That's what she should have done ages ago.
Well, yeah, this was the part of the episode where we were like, yeah, go Carla, but it didn't last for very long.
Well, no, I know. Stephen's like, oh, you're overreacting. I was just trying to help. She's like, out, get out. She escorts him out. And then she says, thanks, Faye. Loyalty means more to me than anything else, which I think is pretty rich coming from somebody who regularly sacks every single person on her stuff. And also, if I was Faye, I would not be very happy about being outed as a massive grass.
I know.
And bum licker to Carla Barla. But hey, Faye seemed quite happy with herself, didn't she? She's obviously...
Bit of a teacher's
I think
pet.
Sally's rubbing off on her. So,
yes, Mrs. Barlow.
So at the cafe... Stephen is telling Elaine about what's happened, and she's going on about this Red Bank apartment, and she's going, oh, it's a bit out of my price range, but maybe we could buy it together as friends. And he's like, that he doesn't immediately run a mile screaming, which to Elaine means, I would love to move in with you.
I don't know. I don't really get what he was going for here. Does he just that desperate to get out of Grasmere Drive?
He's just like floundering for any plot anywhere. Even though he's got a perfectly good plot, being haunted.
I think he quite likes the idea of it being like his villain's lair, you know? Although usually that's in the basement, but this is a penthouse suite. True.
Would you like to live with Elaine?
No, gosh, no.
Can you imagine?
I couldn't think of anything worse.
Can you imagine her? She'd be like, oh, Stephen, I went out to what's somewhere in... Manchester. What's that place near the
Arndale.
I went to the Arndale, and I've got us matching flannels.
I couldn't cope
Oh
with
no,
it.
she didn't want anti-macassars, did she? So she's not that old-fashioned.
Like, as the week went on, we saw the target on Elaine's back growing bigger and bigger, and I was thinking, is this Red Bank apartment going to be the Red Bank apartment going to be the place where she ends up
dying,
meeting her fate?
She will be. I mean, you can just imagine her being really passive aggressive about how you fold towels, or complaining about having the lights on for past 9 o'clock.
No, I don't see her as being a nagger. I just feel her being super enthusiastic about everything.
Yeah,
irritatingly enthusiastic.
No, I don't mean she'd be... I don't think she'd be mean about it. I think she'd just be like, we both want to have the towels folded this way, don't we? So let's do it like that. And I know that you wanted to watch Emmerdale, so I've paused it for you, and let's talk about... You know, I just can imagine her just steamrolling over everything that you want to do.
Yeah.
And she's like, you put on the shopping list you wanted chocolate digestives, but they give me a jippy tummy, so we're going to have rich tea forever and ever and ever.
We saw some great scenes later in the week of Stephen just looking all like zoned out, you know, standing there at the podium at the Chariot Square. We think it's because of the LSD, but I think the reality of what he's just agreed to has dawned on him. He's like, a life in with Elaine. What do I let myself in for?
So they agree to go with it, and she's like, who cares what everyone thinks? We're just buying as friends. And she keeps going on about just being friends, but you can tell she's after what's in his pants.
Yeah.
In Villain's Alley, Stephen makes a shady phone call to somebody saying, I need to see you, I've got a bit of a problem.
Turns out it's Rufus.
It's Rufus. But before that, Peter comes to the factory and he's mad about Carla being back at work, and he's got this gold watch that he's found that was Rufus's that he's going to try and sell because it's worth about 15 grand. And he tells her that he's got this money and they should go on holiday together. And she doesn't need to go back to work.
Has he actually sold that watch now?
We haven't seen him sell it. And anyway, she says, no, I need to protect my territory. I can't leave the business because Stephen keeps trying to get rid of me, which I think is a very fair assessment.
Oh, yeah.
Carla later finds Stephen in the pub, and she's really annoyed because she's been speaking to Rufus, and Rufus has told her that he won't work with anybody except Stephen, and she suspects Stephen of concocting this plan with Rufus. He denies it. She says, I can't afford to lose this contract. You can have your job back. And he says, I don't want my old job back. I want to be the manager. And she says, done.
Carla.
This was nuts.
Disappointed in you, lady.
This was the stupidest thing. Rufus, can somebody remind Carla that they make pants at Underworld? They, 2 weeks ago, they didn't have a contract to make t-shirts and they were fine. Now, all of a sudden, Rufus is the only person who can solve all of her problems, and she has to have this contract to make these stupid t-shirts for him. This wasn't even her business. She just stole it off of Michael and Sarah because they used her printer paper to write stuff on when they were having a break.
No wonder she's having mental health problems if she's living on a knife edge like this. She is literally always one deal away from bankruptcy.
Yeah, no, she needs to get different
She's
jobs.
some long-term plans here. She needs to play the long game a little bit and not just rely on, happy circumstance favouring her.
There's no way that if this business was relying on Rufus's t-shirt company biz stuff, then they're in worse shape than I thought they were, because, like I said, literally 2 weeks ago, this didn't even exist on our radar.
The whole concept of it is a bit silly anyway, because they're not that,
it's not a unique concept.
It's not that great an idea, is it?
How have they copyrighted the concept of I'm with stupid and stupid t-shirts, but for children?
And also, never mind the whole fact that you get a kid a t-shirt and yourself a t-shirt, that child is not going to be able to wear that for very long, is it?
Yeah, that's
leave
true.
It a few months, they grow out of it, and it's like, oh, that was a bit of a waste of time. Now what am I gonna do with my new I'm with my baby t-shirt? It's just
I can't remember what the designs were, but
no, I can't.
Wasn't one of them Michael was wearing a shirt that says "You're my sunshine" and Gloria was wearing one that said "Sunshine"?
I don't remember.
It's like, oh, really? And also, I mean, I don't want to carry on ripping into it, but I'm fairly sure the font was Comic Sans, or at least very close to it. It was like the bare minimum. This is the frustrating thing about it. They can't come up with new amazing business ideas. And
otherwise, they wouldn't be script writers and
they
designers.
Have their own t-shirt company.
Well, yeah, exactly. But when we saw the fair at the hotel on Wednesday or Thursday's episode, sorry, there did seem to be an awful lot of better designs and
this was literally
than,
it was
than
like
what Underworld was,
it was
giving.
Like, did you ever do? Was it called Youth Enterprise? What was that?
Yeah,
thing
young
called?
Young Enterprise.
Young Enterprise. It was like everybody else at a textile convention, and then the Youth Enterprise stand.
Yeah.
There with I'm with stupid.
Did you do Young Enterprise? I did it when I was in sixth
I thought about doing
form.
it, but it seemed like a load of old rubbish.
We went along and we I don't think we ended up making anything. I remember just going to these meetings. This is a scheme for like how old are you? 16,
we need to explain
17.
what it is. It's like business for children.
Yeah, and you go along to these meetings and not based in the school. And you end up designing and developing and selling a project and things like, a CD clock or something like that.
Yeah, it was all that kind of rubbish.
And my business was called Ego. And I designed the logo for it, I remember. But we literally didn't make anything.
You're like the first one to get fired on The Apprentice.
we absolutely were. But
you're right. What were you selling?
Nothing, literally nothing.
So you came up with a business... Oh, yeah.
I don't think we came up with anything.
I think I remember going to one of the meetings and everybody else was so jolly hockey sticks and ponytails and glossy shiny teeth and rah rah rah, and I thought I can't be doing this.
No, I just think we ummed and ahed and ideas. I'm rubbish in group meetings and everything, and so I wasn't going to say anything.
You just sat in the corner and made a logo from nothing.
While the other groups made their CD clocks and their corsages for the sixth form prom and stuff, we just ended up with nothing. That's a waste of time.
I think it probably would have been.
And that's why I didn't go into business. I went into education.
What did I do? Nothing. Right, so Stephen, the company is called Nipper Snapper.
Yes.
Which...
I quite like that.
Annoyed me.
Why?
What does it mean?
Well,
I suppose nipper, child, snapper,
Yeah.
Snappy, nipper, snapper.
It's fine. It's a kind of
like
classic Corrie.
If it was do good, it would already been taken, wouldn't it?
Exactly.
So, it's fine, isn't it? He's practicing his speech, and he sees Carla. I think he sees Elaine actually, and goes on about.
Oh, sorry. Yes, he does.
Her flat. She's going on about her flat, and she's like, "Oh, you got promoted," and she was going to him later on. Now you've got your promotion. You don't have to do as much work as you used to. It's like, Elaine, I don't know where you've learned what business is, but it sounds like you've been watching black and white promotional videos about ovens from 1950s America about how to prepare a fantastic 3-course meal so your husband can get a promotion, and then you've forgotten that after that the job that you get promoted to actually involves work as well.
Don't tell Aaron that, otherwise he's
oh my god, I've never seen anybody celebrate so much for a made up job promotion. He got promoted from something that didn't really exist to something else that didn't really exist, and he's still the most junior one there, so what difference does it make?
Everybody else who works at the garage is a boss, aren't they? You got
everybody
Kevin, you got Tyrone,
it.
you got the wife of the boss, and then poor old Aaron. It's like
I'm not the junior anymore, I'm a normal mechanic. You're not though, are you? You're not though, are you? Anyway, so Stephen's in the precinct, and when we went to the precinct, I saw somebody doing drugs too, and I bought loads.
No, you did not.
I did. I got some for everybody. So if you want some, just write in, email us, and I'll send you a bag.
All lies. Yeah,
he sees a shady drug deal.
I'd forgotten about this until today when they came back again.
And he's like, "Oh dear, I would hate to
I
be
need
doing
some shady drugs because my LSD isn't going to last forever."
Back at the factory, Carla is talking about this event again.
He's saying
the most
it's so important.
thing.
We've got to get these North American contacts.
Oh yeah, this is Thursday actually, not Wednesday.
Yeah.
And we've got whoever gets this big American client, will get a big commission. And then in the cafe, Sarah and Stephen are talking about, oh, we have to compete against each other. I don't like it. And Stephen says, yeah, I don't like it either. So the solution is put more LSD in Carla's tea.
I like how he's gone away from just like little pipettes in it, and today he was just like, get it all in there.
It's like, bottoms up, chuck it in, let's get on with this.
Yeah, it's like George's Marvellous Medicine, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I'm surprised that Stephen didn't like shoot up into the rafters like
Well,
Granny
got
did.
there yet. So he's making tea for everybody, and he puts it in Carla's tea, and he gives it to Carla. Then she takes a sip of it and goes, this is rank. It's got full fat milk. It's too cowy for me. Which, takes one to know one. And Stephen realises that all along he's been drinking her tea.
I thought that
with
was
the drugs in it.
Stephen's reaction when he kind of looks into the bottom of his empty mug and he's like,
Just
oh
panic.
no. That's what happens when you make 3 cups of tea in white mugs. I still don't really get how it actually happened. If I'd put drugs in somebody's tea, I would
leave the spoon in to
something
indicate.
along those lines just to make sure. But the other thing was, like, we weren't sure whether it had been him that had taken it or whether it was Sarah.
Yeah, because hang on. First of all, it was
ahead.
funny when they were all sitting at their desks and Carla was like, she kept picking the drink up and she wasn't drinking it. And then Steve was like, oh, here, why don't you have some biscuits? But they're so dry. You probably should have some, you should probably have some tea with it. And she's like, oh no, I'm not having any biscuits, thanks. And then he realises he's drunk this whole tea this whole time. And he doesn't know yet, like you say, whether it's him or Sarah, because they get to the hotel and they're both feeling woozy.
Luckily, Sarah just wants a sandwich to cure it.
Sarah's got low blood sugar, and he's probably just on the edge of panic. So it's difficult to tell which one of the ones.
Edge of panic since like September.
Can you imagine what his blood pressure looks like? So Rufus turns up, and he's mad about the fact that they're expanding into America, because he's like, you should have asked me. I should have got first dibs.
Exclusives, yeah.
Well, they should have sold, like, that would have been my first thing. Right, okay, well, I'll sell it to you then. Let's go home. No, Stephen didn't think of that.
No, sorry, I just had a mouthful of tea there.
Elaine comes in.
What have you put in this?
Starts talking. Stephen's just there. Like, what was that? Was it Airplane, where the guy, he was piloting the plane and he had a tap on his head and it was just pouring water? I don't think you really watched that.
I have watched Airplane, just not for a very, 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 very long time.
I do.
No, it's all right. It's all right.
It's funny.
Stephen's just there, kind of like, sweating cobs and he's like
he just
looking zoned out,
waxy, panicking. And Todd Boyce, say what you want about how silly you think any of this is. I'm not here to argue with you about that. I think he's fantastic at acting. That bit where he goes up to the podium and he's just like, I challenge you to find somebody else who could have done it as well as he did. I thought he was great.
It all depends on what you're going for, doesn't it? It's clearly it's supposed to be funny, and whether you like or not that it's supposed to be camp or funny, it is. And I think that with, if that's the direction that he's been asked to do, I think he's doing a fine job.
So,
he just kind of stumbles up there, doesn't he?
Sarah gets a sandwich, and now she's fine. So she goes up to the podium, and she introduces Stephen to the crowd. I blame Sarah for this, because she's standing at the podium, and her uncle's there, stumbling, dripping with sweat, looking like he's just been told World War III's about to start and he's the only one that can stop it, but he has to complete a Rubik's Cube in 10 seconds. And he kind of staggers his way up to the podium and she's like, yep, not my business now. It's his problem. Yeah. Wouldn't you have been like, oh, you look terrible. I'm sorry, everybody. We're going to have to postpone or anything but... And here's Stephen. So he comes up to this podium and her face is melting. You can see, we keep getting camera effects of what he can see. And first of all, we see her face melt and her eyes just falling off her head. It looked like...
new profile pic for Tina O'Brien there.
There's coloured lights. Oh yeah, there's sparkles all the way around her.
Yeah, this is the first bit of when you kind of realise, okay, they're going to do this in tonight's
They're going to do
episode.
it. Yes, they're going there.
No, I didn't think that was a great effect, honestly. It looked a little bit of a 90s early Photoshop, press the smudge tool.
Can I just ask you how much LSD you've taken?
Because
I've taken loads.
None.
When we went to the precinct, I bought it off those two shady guys.
This is not true. No, I just think that wasn't a great effect. I thought, they're going to go cheap like that. But I think everyone else that they did after that...
They wouldn't lie on Coronation Street. That's what it looks like.
Do you think they had to do a bit
of
research themselves?
Right, everybody. Everyone, take a cup of tea. Or they went, right, everyone, look at your cups. Empty, right? The fun's about to start. Write down what you remember.
Write down what you see, yeah.
So Stephen goes up to the podium. I don't know why it's a proper wooden podium. It's like they took it off of 10 Downing Street.
It's a classy places Chariot Square.
Do you know how for some reason now we've started giving all the Prime Ministers their own special podium? They must have bought it cheap off Liz Truss. So he's standing there with this podium, and he's wiping his hand back and forth.
Oh yeah, they do that, don't they?
I was waiting for it to sort of
technique.
start melting into the wood, but it doesn't go in there. And he's like trying to talk, and he doesn't really know what he's saying. And when he looks up, Leo's there and Teddy's there, and then the whole audience turns into Leo and Teddy, and they're all wearing the costumes that the extras had been wearing previously. So there's one of them with like a Leo with a little prim blouse with a bow around his neck. I thought this was so great.
I
was
enjoyed
cheering.
that.
I was like, great. This is
you'd
perfect.
said on the podcast before, hadn't you? And I couldn't remember this when you told me at the time, but we have had another very reliable listener text us today to say, Gemma, you were right with that prediction.
This was my wildest dreams. This was like, I can't believe that they've done this. This was like Christmas. This was a Christmas gift for me. I'm so thrilled. I'm so thrilled. I can't tell you.
But it reminded me very much of like Yasmin's Jeff dreams, because they had dreams, and I hope that Corrie don't. Although I enjoyed it, I hope that they've got more tricks. It can't be overused,
otherwise
yeah, exactly.
Every single time something like this happens, you're going to be like, "Oh, where's
the multiple baddies going to turn up, or whatever?" Yeah, so they had Yasmin when she was in prison, imagining being served.
Served by the prison guards? Is that what you do?
No. I'm saying that she was there. She had that dream, didn't she, of Jeff coming, being a prison guard and giving her food and all sorts. So it was.
I don't think prison guards would like it to be called serving the prisoners food.
Well, whatever, giving or
dishing it out, doling it out.
Yes, yeah. So it was similar to that, but it came out of nowhere. I didn't know that this was going to happen.
I loved it.
Yeah, and he kind of dashes off, doesn't he, leaving Sarah to face the crowds. Every time we came back to a Stephen scene, I remember thinking, oh, I hope he's not better yet.
Yeah, I know.
I hope we get to see something else this time. But they managed to keep it going all the way through the episode.
Oh, and he sort of looks up, sees all the Teddys and Leos, and like goes, oh, and runs off. And Sarah's there going, oh my God. But what has she been doing this whole other time? Why was she surprised he ran off? He's standing there wiping his hand on the podium going, blah, 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 blah. Anyway, later on, Michael tells Sally that something weird happened to Stephen at the business meeting, and Sarah had to step in and save the day.
Yeah.
Good for her.
Thank you for not showing us that for some reason. But
why do you want to see Sarah make a speech about we've invented t-shirts again? Later on, there's all this. Stephen's running. He's running through the hotel and things are melting, I think. And then
things are all like psychedelic colours, aren't they? I think in that bit we get to see little rainbow hotel corridors.
He barges into a hotel room which is being cleaned. And I don't think this is his hotel room. This is just a random hotel room that the cleaner's working on.
I think
Why would he have a room at the hotel?
Exactly, no reason.
So she's the cleaner. She's like, you can't just come in here. And he's like, get out. And then Leo and Teddy turn up, and he's like, I'm sorry. And there was also a bit where he looks up at the picture on the wall, and it's like a sketch drawing of like some
Francis
kind of
Drake or something.
Yeah. And it turns into this really cool sketch of Leo's face, which was fantastic. And then Leo and Teddy are there, and Stephen gets transported to the site of the murders, and he's watching them happen in front of his eyes again. And he sees Leo falling off the balcony into the bin, and then he's standing there, and he looks down at his hands, and he's got the hole punch, and then he sees Teddy on the floor. He's talking to him.
Oh yeah, I rewatched that thing because we couldn't figure out what he was saying, but he says like, "You are a liar. You're a liar."
And he's going, "I'm sorry, leave me alone." And Debbie. He's locked the door, and the cleaner's got Debbie, and Debbie's like, open the door. You've got to let us in. And Stephen's curling up on the floor going, oh no.
Was this the bit when she was doing the Master's Knock from Doctor Who?
Yeah.
If you remember back in series 3 or Doctor Who, and the whole thing with the Master is he would knock going da-da-da-da.
Like the
like the theme tune, and Debbie was doing that and then she's like, give me the master key, and I was like, yes. I know it, Debbie's the master.
Get her a job on Doctor Who, stat. That's the only way I'd accept
She don't-
her leaving the show.
I mean, she's got plenty of time for it. The amount of stuff they give her to do on Coronation Street at the moment.
So Leo and Teddy are watching Stephen on the floor as ghosts. And do you reckon, right, here's my theory. Ghosts are real in the world of Coronation Street. We know that's a fact.
Well,
We know it's a fact. So my theory is that LSD actually just opens your eyes to what's actually there. And Teddy and Leo have been walking around following Stephen everywhere. And then they're like, he can see us. Let's screw him up. Let's poke him.
oh, come on then, son. Let's have a grand day out.
Yeah, why not? So, where are we? So Elaine turns up. I don't know why Elaine's always there all the time, and
Because she's obsessed with
she's
Stephen.
she's a stalker.
She's a massive stalker. I think she's Justin's mum.
Yes, I wouldn't be surprised. Elaine knocks on the door and she calls Stephen and she says, "Are you all right?" The keys get brought in and Elaine lets herself in and she's decided that she's the one that's going to save the day here. And Stephen's like, "I need help, but I know you're not there." And Elaine starts stroking his face and going, "Oh, I'll always be there for you."
She's just creepy, isn't she? He's clearly like having a bit of an episode here, and she even who was it? It's Debbie at the door, isn't
like,
it? And Elaine's like, "He's fine. We don't need it."
Or he
Call
goes,
an ambulance woman.
Literally, Stephen goes, "I need help," and Elaine's like, "He's fine. Close the door."
I'll look
What
after
are you doing to him?
Let's put a wet paper
Is
towel
this
on it,
another
Stephen.
consent
You'll be
story
okay.
or something?
Yeah, I think it might be.
So she's stroking his face, and then he calms down a bit, and Elaine's still there, right up in front of him, going, "Oh, the factory pressure's too much for you," and he's like, everything's going wibbly wobbly, and he's trying to listen to what she's saying, and oh yeah,
Where'd that yawn
you
come
made me
from?
yawn by yawning.
Sorry.
Yeah, she's upset. She's just got this real big urge to mother somebody, and Tim won't let her mother, and Tim and Sally won't let Elaine mother
Yeah,
Tim.
I guess so.
So she's got to redirect it onto Stephen. So she's like, "Stephen, you're working too hard." How would you look at this man who's sweating in a pile on the floor, going, "They're watching me. You're not really here," and going, "It must be stress." Because Debbie even says to her, "Is he on drugs or is he like drunk or something?" And Elaine's like, "No, nothing like that."
Yeah, but yeah, like you said, she just uses this as an opportunity to take advantage of them, doesn't she?
She does. So, yeah, what?
Well, no, this is when she starts talking about them bimbling into old age together, as she puts it. Let's go and retire to a cottage somewhere.
She says, "Maybe we shouldn't buy Red Bank. Maybe we should buy a cottage and live there together. Maybe we should just have roses and a dog or whatever she's whittering on about." And Stephen's like, "I don't deserve it. I've done really bad things. I'm not a good person." And she says, "No, you're I want someone like you for keeps." And Stephen says, "Yes, for keeps. Yes, that would be perfect." And Elaine's like, "I will marry you." She's like tricked him.
That woman,
She tricked him. So she
Stephen's
says,
got no idea what he's
she
consenting to
kisses
at the
him on the
moment, is
cheek
she?
and says, "I love you too."
This is basically 2 episodes in a row that have
Yeah.
ended in a fairly similar way. At least we didn't have Elaine's granny pants flung onto the floor as the final shot tonight. Or just over the camera, maybe.
I think the difference here is that you can unconsent to marriage
That is true.
after the fact.
Yes.
On Friday, Elaine's like, "Oh, let's tell all our families that we're getting married." And Steve's like, "What? No, not yet. I want to just enjoy, just us knowing." And she's like, "Oh yeah, I've never had a secret before," something like that. Oh God. Then he says, "I don't want to retire. Actually, the factory needs me more than ever." So he arrives at work and Carla confronts him about the presentation because a client's just phoned her up and told her what happened. And Stephen says, "Oh, it was food poisoning." And Carla says, "Oh, okay, but you shouldn't have got on the stage in the first place if you're really sick." Later on, Stephen's to the pub and he tells Jenny that he's fed up of Carla walking all over him. And Jenny's like, "Yeah, you need to stand up for yourself. Stephen, I know, would never give up like this." So Stephen's like, "Yeah, that is right. I wouldn't give up." So he goes back to the precinct. He finds the dodgy teens. And he's like, hi kids. Hello, fellow kids. What drugs are we doing these days? Can I have some LSD? And they're like, LSD? Sod off, Grandpa.
Yeah.
We don't do LSD anymore. And he's like, how about £100? They're like, yeah, brilliant. And then one of them's like, and then also we need a finder's fee. And he gives them 20 quid and they're like, thank you, goodbye.
And then he's like, how long are you going to be? We have to build a time machine to take us to the 60s first or something.
And he's like, give me my money back. And they're like, don't think so. And then he says something like,
you don't know what I'm capable of, or something.
no, he says, you don't know what I'm capable of, boys.
Yeah.
Like that. And then I was like, what's he going to do? Cuts to the next scene and he's slapping him around and beating him up and they run away. I loved it. He was full of rage, wasn't he? He had bloody knuckles and everything. So, Sarah...
Nothing ever came of that, though.
Well,
usually when a character gets bloody knuckles, somebody notices, don't they?
There was
Maybe
a
on
scene...
Monday,
Okay, right, so Sarah's meeting with some clients in Speed Dial. I don't know why they're meeting there.
No, I didn't get that.
And it was funny too because they come down the stairs and Sarah goes, oh, hi, did you find us okay? What do you mean, us? Yeah, I did find you okay. I was expecting to go to the great big fabric factory, clothing factory up the road.
Yeah,
but
funny why I
this
should
Indian
think that.
restaurant is fine, I guess. So they all sit down. Sorry, Pakistani. They all sit down and they're about to shake on this deal for the North American market with a very suspiciously pair of English people when Stephen comes in and he shakes their hands, and this is when I was expecting what you were saying about them seeing his bloody knuckles.
Yeah.
But I imagine what happened was they're about to sign, Stephen comes in, they shake his hand, they look at it, he's got blood all over his hands and he's like, how about another 5%? And they're like, okay, whatever you want. I don't want to get beaten to death. So... he's like saying, nipper snapper is highly sought after, you have to pay us more. So he ends up getting more and everyone's happy with him, I guess.
Well, Carla isn't. She's like fairly loath to congratulate him, isn't she? When
Well,
they go back, she's like, oh, well, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, so...
well, she sent Sarah to do it and then Stephen comes along anyway.
Yeah,
which she was a bit annoyed about.
So Stephen ends the week on top.
He does, doesn't he?
After a few little setbacks.
Can you just imagine him going to bed tonight on a Friday going, yeah, I really did a good job. and then, no, Mom, I don't want any hot chocolate. God, I can't wait to move out.
Yeah.
All right, Stephen, love. Let me know if you want another hot water bottle. We're not having the heating on past 9.
So this drugs trip then, this LSD.
Loved it. How else are you gonna? I'm sorry, but I know you don't like the visual effects. How else are you gonna do that? There's no. You could not have portrayed any of that with just Stephen walking around going,
I didn't mind it too much. I did think that some of the visual effects, especially at the beginning, weren't the best. They weren't exactly Hollywood,
completely accurate.
But you know, I think that I'm going to say. Yes, they were fine for what was needed there. It was a kind of a bit of a so bad it's good.
Black and white, wobbly.
But when I was just
melty welty,
when I got into it, when I kind of just accepted that this is what they're doing, then I was able to just sit back and enjoy it. Yeah. And like I said, every time he came onto the screen, I was just like, I hope he's not better. I hope he sees something else this time, just to see what it is. And we were just laughing all our way through it. I mean, did you have a favourite? Visual effect.
I like the bit where the portrait turned to Leo. I thought that was good, and I liked everybody sitting in the audience.
I think the sea of Leos and Teddy's was my favourite bit.
I just want to give a big props to the actors who played Leo and Teddy, because I bet you that took a long time because they had to change in and out of all of those costumes and sit in all those chairs individually. Yeah.
Just for like a 2 second shot.
It wasn't. Yeah, it was on for 2 seconds.
Yeah. No, that's
it
was
how dedicated they are to bringing us quality entertainment. I'm sorry, but not ironically, I loved it.
And I have to say as well to the people who are saying that what has become of my Corrie, and I know there are people that are saying that.
There won't be anyone saying that.
You go back to late 1960, you go back to May Hardman's death in episode 7, 8 or so, and it wasn't a million miles away from what we saw with Stephen. She didn't die of LSD, but she had wibbly wobbly camera effects, didn't she? She was, it's been a while since I've seen it, but they definitely didn't play her death straight. You could see things kind of blurring in and out of focus, and the clocks are ticking and everything.
There was a lot of experimental stuff going on, even back at the very beginning of Coronation Street, as far as
and
camera
that's
stuff.
just behind the scenes.
Like, for example, they experimented with having people cough behind the camera to sort of really make you feel
experimented with dropping the boom into the shot just to. No, I know. I get that Corrie isn't usually like that, and it was utterly weirdly bizarrely camp, and yes, I do like the character stuff and the serious stuff and the good humor, but I'm just laid back and accepted this for what it is, and if this is the route that they're going down, then that kept me entertained, and that's what you want, really, isn't it? So Elaine, then, are we thinking that things are more likely to be
she's gonna die,
not going her way now?
As soon as she's like, "Oh, we're gonna get married," I was like, "Elaine, you're gonna die."
The thing is, it's like, why would he kill her? Is she going
get his hands on her cash? If they both buy Red Bank together and he gets married to her, they don't need to buy anything. He's gonna be like, "Oh, I really think we should get married as soon as possible. What's the point of waiting?" She'll go, "Oh, that's right. Don't let the grass grow under your feet, do you, Stephen? Can't wait to be your wife. I can't wait to be Mrs. Elaine Reed." And then as soon as, they've had the wedding night, she'll be dead. And he'll have all her money, which is going to be quite a lot.
Would you like her to be able to find him out just before he does her in, though?
As far as female empowerment and, taking into consideration her entire character arc and her story and her background and how she was Jeff's first victim and she helped Yasmin realise what he was doing to her, and she was really strong and she tried to, help Yasmin, etc. Having her be killed by a serial killer...
she's like, it wasn't so bad for Jeff, to be honest, was it?
No, that would be really awful and kind of undermine the entire character arc, but it would also be great.
Yeah.
Because she's such a wet blanket.
I'd like her to find out and have like your Norman Brief. Yeah, Norman
Brief with a case.
Norman Bates with a hole punch sort of moment before he claves her head in with, I don't know. Wouldn't you like her to just die happy and not really ever realising being steamed to death with a lavender pillow or something? I'm not sure, but having him... It depends how far they go with it.
The thing is, right...
Are they actually going to get married? And they haven't had a serial killer on Coronation Street kill their own spouse yet, have they?
Here's a question.
So
is he actually divorced from Gabrielle yet?
I can't remember where they got to with that.
Let's say he's not. That's a 2-for-1 then, isn't it?
I think probably he is. I think he must be. But I don't know.
I think that Gabrielle was going to tell Elaine...
It would, yeah.
And then that he's going to have to kill both of them. Because, I am saying, he's going to kill her for the money. At the moment, there's literally no reason that Stephen would kill Elaine. Even if he wanted her money.
Even if she's really annoying. It is a bit of a risk.
He killed Leo. He didn't really kill Leo on purpose. Well, he didn't kill him on purpose. He fell. And then he got rid of the body. And then with Teddy, he killed him because he found out that he done something to Leo.
Yeah.
So he's not like a cold-blooded serial murderer.
He's not a plotter. He reacts when...
Yeah, exactly. So the only reason he's going to kill Elaine is if she finds out or...
Yeah. I think having, if I don't know whether... I can't imagine it's going to happen too soon. We've got to have a bit of a gap before he claims blood yet again. But if they announce their engagement...
Enough time for a wedding.
And then Gabrielle pops up on the scene again and says, look, you don't know who you're dealing with here. Elaine maybe does a little bit of digging, although I don't think she's smart enough to do much investigation.
Wasn't it really suspicious that we had like one random scene with Gabrielle in a car?
Yeah, she's still on the periphery, isn't she? Absolutely.
So another thing. Okay, here's another thing that maybe might happen. Well, no, he's blotted his copybook with those lads, hasn't he? How's he going to get drugs now?
Yeah, did he? And did he? No, yeah, he didn't get any LSD.
Well, he didn't get any
LSD
because he didn't have any.
No, but I'm sure there'll be. I mean, he still is.
What
got
else
contacts with Rufus, hasn't
what do
he?
the kids...
He phoned up
Oh,
Rufus.
yeah, Rufus. Yeah,
this
why didn't
week.
he just ask Rufus for drugs?
Yeah.
Well, we don't
Maybe
know.
he thought he'd be able to get it cheaper. He's always out for a deal, isn't he? Looking for the cheapest supplier. I'm really interested to see what everyone's reaction is when the announcement of the engagement comes, because knowing Elaine, I don't think she's going to be able to keep it quiet for long,
she won't.
because she's just so excited
I feel really
with
bad
the
for
whole
how
thing.
much I hate her. Well, I don't hate her, I just think she's silly.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is, it was very silly that she took it as a proposal anyway, because it's not like they'd even been dating. Really, is it?
No.
They had literally just been
she
friends. She's so desperate that she takes a first whiff of somebody saying something that could become it reminded me a little bit, I'm sure they've done it plenty of times on Coronation Street before, but the one that stands out to me is when Curly accidentally accepted, it was led... What was it? It was Curly and Kimberly, wasn't it, back in the early 90s, and somebody says something, and then Kimberly and her mum and dad think that Curly's proposed to her, and he's kind of roped into this crazy family. But I forgot what my point was now completely. But
it's not the first time that somebody's accidentally been proposed to.
But as far as all the other characters are concerned, they are just friends. So what are they going to say? I'm really interested. I'm especially interested in seeing Jenny's reaction, and I hope we get to see this, because Jenny...
She was only just giving him a pep talk 5 minutes ago.
She was, and she has had a bit of a candle for him. She's held a bit of a torch for him, hasn't she? Has Jenny? And I'm wondering whether she's going to get her nose put out of joint if Elaine's there flashing this diamond ring or something, and Jenny's going to think,
how's he going to get his hands on that? How's he going to afford... Maybe he's going to have to kill Elaine to get the money to buy the diamond ring.
Yeah, and then there's, what do I do with it now? I don't know. So I think that it'd be interesting for Jenny to be on the case, or maybe... See, this is the thing, like, who's going to actually find him out if it's not Elaine? Who would you most like to be the one to do that aha moment and take Stephen down? Because with Phelan, it was Anna, really, wasn't it, towards the end? And with Richard, it was Gail. Yeah, so at the moment, as we've spoken about recently on the podcast, there's still no real adversary other than Carla, and she's not having a go at him because she suspects him of murder. Yeah. She just wants him to make her a cup of tea.
It's not going to be satisfying to me if Carla finds out, because she already doesn't like him.
I don't think so either. I mean, it feels like at the moment she's maybe the one that's most likely to, because he has been drugging her and everything, so it'd be the perfect get your own back if she's the one that takes him down. But you're right, I don't think I'd be satisfied with that. I mean, just imagine if it was Audrey that found out that her old... Well, yeah, if she found out that her son was a serial killer.
Because she's the one that discovered it was Richard Hillman.
Yeah, Audrey and Archie were the ones that found out Richard Hillman. So she's got a nose for it, so you better watch out, Stephen.
Yeah, we could have a spin-off show with Audrey just solving crimes by accident.
No, I'd like Jenny to be more involved on this, because she keeps being brought into the storyline and then flung off for a few weeks. But then equally, we didn't have David, we didn't have Gail, we didn't have Audrey this week, did we? In the storyline, we're still able to go perfectly well without them.
As long as it's not Tim.
Tim is not going to find Stephen out. Although it wasn't that in my predictions for the year.
Elaine's his mum, so he would have a reason. That's why I'm worried. I don't want him to be in the story, because I like the story as it is.
Yeah.
I don't like Tim.
I wouldn't mind it having a bit of a rest.
It's got to last till Christmas.
It's got to last a long time. I think we are going to have many more months of this, and they can't blow their load too early.
My prediction, okay. Gabrielle finds out they're still married. Gabrielle finds out that he's engaged to Elaine. She turns up and she tries to warn Elaine, and then Stephen kills her secretly. Gabrielle. And then Elaine gets really suspicious and eventually puts it all together and confronts him, and he kills her as well. And then we have another break, and then he manages to seduce Jenny, and then at Christmas it all comes out, but she manages to push him off a balcony.
I love that. With flipping scaffolding, honestly.
Because I think he needs to kill 2 women now, otherwise it's sexist. Don't you think?
He has got to have at least one lady
victim.
A fatal femme. I think that yeah.
Yep. Are we done?
No. I just wanted to talk. I really enjoyed the stuff with the vote of no confidence at the beginning of the week.
I found it very weird that it was unanimous that they all voted for Carla when they were told specifically everybody has to vote for this to happen, and if one person doesn't vote, because what I got confused about is that I thought that Stephen was going to make the ballots all come for.
Yeah, you thought that they were going to be.
If I was Stephen, I would have just gone. I would have just voted everybody. Said, "Oh, everyone wants to kick her out. Right, nobody's allowed to discuss the vote because if you do, it's invalid."
Well,
although it would have been quite obvious as soon as somebody said, "What did you vote?"
Well, if it was supposed to be unanimous, then anybody who voted for Carla
would have gone. Hang on a minute.
Yeah. But no, I thought that was a nice early week twist, and.
I mean, honestly, it shows that Stephen's not as clever as he thinks he is, because he thought he was being so Machiavellian and sneaky, and then he literally didn't get one person.
No. But to be fair to him, he did manage to wangle his job back by the end of the episode, so he has got something going for him. He has got a bit of a business
blackmail?
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so that was all fun and games. What was a lot more serious this week is the Amy and Aaron storyline. Yes, but Brian was still in it, barking away. This is my little mystery about this. Why has Brian been involved? Like, I'm wondering whether I'll tell you what, I'll come back to it later, but if I forget to say, ask me about what I think about Brian. So, this story didn't get started until Thursday, and Amy's been a bit of a grump on the sofa, saying, I didn't get much sleep last night. Aaron and Summer, you were chatting up until the wee hours. And Aaron says, oh no, I wasn't talking to Summer. I was talking to my dad, actually, on the phone. But Amy doesn't really believe him. I don't know why she doesn't, but she smells a little rat there. So she goes and...
Because she heard them talking and it didn't sound like the sort of conversation you'd have with your dad.
I guess not. So she...
You'd be like, so... Dad, what you wearing?
But Aaron wasn't having that conversation with Mia, was he?
He obviously was having something that crossed a line. Otherwise, she wouldn't have been able to tell.
Anyway, I don't know. She confronts him about it at work, and he admits to her that it was his ex, this girl called Mia. Another girl with an eating disorder, so clearly Aaron has a type.
He just goes to these meetings to pick up chicks.
I think he does. I think you're right. It's his
MO.
Yeah. So he says she's going through a tough time. I just need you to help, and she even though we've split up, she thinks that she can still talk to me, and I'm a good listener and everything. And Amy says, you really need to tell Summer about this if this is as innocent as you're making out. But unfortunately, before he gets a chance, Summer sees his phone, because they have this lunch together in the cafe or something, and you could tell it was going to happen, couldn't you? He's like, I'm just going to put my phone face up on the table in front of you, Summer, while I go and order something from Bernie. And what do you know? A message bings onto the screen from Mia saying, oh, thanks for last night, it was great. And Summer, surprisingly confronts Aaron about this, and this is when he says, oh yeah, she's got an eating disorder, she speaks to me, I'm a good listener to her and everything, and she says, no, this is weird, why are you in touch with an ex still? And Aaron at this point admits that it was her that he'd been speaking to last night as well, and Summer is not happy in the slightest about being lied to. Well, not only is he talking to another girl in the late hours of the night, but he's trying to cover up about it. So what's going on there, Aaron? What are you trying to hide? So later on, Amy tells Summer that she knew about it already because of confronting Aaron about it at work. Then we have Brian coming into the flat and saying he's moving back home tomorrow. The electricals are all fixed. Ed says that he can go back to number 12 or wherever it is that he lives. Summer says...
Then he goes away again.
Yeah. Summer says to Amy, look, me and Aaron have already had trust issues here. This whole thing is making things worse. I don't know whether we can survive this.
Oh, no.
I know. Aaron and Summer...
Can I, of all the stuff he's put up with Summer, as soon as he does one thing out of line, she's like, I don't think we can be friends, and we can't even...
Well, he says as much later on in the episode, doesn't he?
I'm glad he stands up for himself.
Yeah, he
She's
does.
just
He goes to see
a
Summer
nightmare.
and says, "Look, I'm going to be straight with you next time. Sorry about this." And so, but Summer's like, she's not having any of it. And he says, "Well, yeah, I still will carry on speaking to Mia if she needs to." And she's like, "No, you won't. You're not allowed to speak to her." And he's like, oh, and also it comes out as well, doesn't it, that he's been telling Summer about all her dramas that she's been having.
He's been telling
that must
Mia
have taken
about Summer's dramas.
Yeah, that's what I said. Or mentally. That must have taken a long time.
No wonder they were talking all night.
Yeah, exactly.
And laughing.
Started chatting at lunchtime, and by 2
Right.
o'clock, he's
And
just
then-
about got to the bit where Mike locks her in the room.
And then you'll guess what happens next.
She fainted. She fainted.
She never. Again?
Aaron says, "I have done so much for you, Summer. I even stood by you when you were offering to have some other guy's baby." And Summer's like, "No, I don't want to have this over anymore."
I was only having someone else's baby so that I could put your dad through rehab. Which
She
was the most
storms out.
hilariously soap thing that...
I know. So that's kind of where the things are on Friday by the end of Thursday's episode.
Like,
Friday
get out,
we
get
come
out,
into
Aaron.
it, and Amy's having a bit of a sad time because she ends up being quite
melancholy about losing Jacob.
yeah. She's got her guard down on Friday's episode for one thing or another. On one of them is that she's still getting Jacob's monster truck magazines through the post, and it's kind of reminding her of him. At one point she tries to phone him and it's not working, so they decide to cheer each other up, Amy and Aaron do, by going out for this cocktail night at the bistro later. Maybe we should bring Summer along with us. And Aaron's like, "Oh, I'm not sure that she's going to forgive me after yesterday, but maybe." So then we have the scene with Brian leaving the flat. There's a kind of sweet, I guess, little scene between Brian and Aaron, and saying, "Oh, I'm going to miss you." And Aaron says, "Oh, you can come round whenever you want." And then Aaron goes over to Summer's flat, or Billy's flat, to say, "Sorry for what happened yesterday. I just want to make it up to you. Come to the bistro with us. Have some cocktails. It's gonna be a great evening." And Summer's like, "I just don't know, Aaron. I can't trust you after everything that happened between you and Mia. Sorry." So then we have Aaron going back to work again, and as you said earlier, he's got a promotion. Tyrone and Abby
Hooray!
dropped the bombshell on him that he is no longer a trainee mechanic anymore. He's a fully fledged
it's
mechanic.
junior mechanic.
Junior mechanic.
To normal mechanic.
He's now utterly normal in every way.
You're not a junior mechanic anymore. You're a dog's body mechanic now.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Aaron also talks to Abby,
Make me
I
a
think,
cup
a
of
little
tea.
bit about what's going on with Summer. So she's
like, I
maybe
couldn't-
being involved in the story possibly now. I don't know. She knows some things.
I couldn't care less.
So then we have a scene back up in Summer and Aaron's flat again, and Amy's round the corner. Summer comes into the building, and Amy starts going on about, "Oh, have you talked any sense into that Summer yet?" Not realising that this isn't actually Aaron that's walking through the door. 'Tis Summer herself. Summer's obviously mega offended by this, and Amy kind of has fallen over herself to apologise. But Summer says, Can you believe that Aaron still wants to be able to speak to Mia after everything that's happened? It's unbelievable. And Amy, good for her, tells Summer, "I think you're being a little bit needy and insecure here, understandably, but you need to let Aaron off the leash a little bit. You can't control everything that he does." Well, that doesn't work. They end up bickering, and Amy says, "Summer, you better do one."
Do one.
So she does. She does one. Aaron gets home later, and Amy tells him about what happened with Summer, and she's just not really in the mood for going out for cocktails now. Good job then that Aaron has brought back 2 bottles. What's he got? A little blue.
He's got some kind of
vodka-y thing.
vodka-based alcohol
And some prosecco,
just
for a little classy tipple. And he's brought news of this new promotion as well. So the drinks start flowing. Where do we go to?
I've never seen anybody celebrate a promotion on Coronation Street as much as Aaron celebrated this non-event of being told that you're no longer junior.
Yeah. Summer gets a message from Aaron saying, "Look, you need to come along to the bistro. We'll be there later." So I guess he's changed his mind about that. And then we see them all pre-bistro having a little drink in the flat. So who was there? We had Summer wasn't there at this point, was she? I don't think so. We had Aaron, we had Amy, we had Asher, we had Ardy with his little bit of stubble, getting him out for his once a month appearance, and Nina was there. Nina never seems like
she seems slightly
really,
too old.
She does. She feels like she's a little bit too mature for all of the rest of them. She doesn't really fit in, but I don't mind.
It's funny how it's really not that much of a difference, like the age.
No, it's not. It's
like
barely
2
anything.
years or something, but she does seem a bit like kids, but hey, free booze.
Well, exactly. So,
but anyway, she is Asher's girlfriend, so
yes,
she does just,
easy to forget that. Anyway, Aaron ends up popping champagne all over himself, doesn't he?
Prosecco.
Prosecco all over himself, and
he's only been promoted to normal mechanic from junior. Not like head of the company or anything.
He's not. So everyone else goes off to the bistro, leaving Aaron and Amy in the flat there, and he's still got booze all over him. He's taken his lucky jeans off at this point, and he's
so lucky, really.
No, he's walking around the flat in his pants and shirt, which was unbuttoned like 70s Ken Barlow style, with his chest all out and everything.
Yeah. Who does he think he is? Richard Gere?
And
ask your mum.
Takes it over to Amy Amy says, look, give it here, let me have a look at it, and basically one thing leads to another, and before long he's going in for a kiss. And where'd that come from? They're interrupted by a phone call that I can't remember who it was in the end.
Ring.
Amy snapped.
Ring.
Yes.
No, what does it go like? Oh, yeah, ring. It's like knock knock. Ring.
Who's there?
Interrupting phone call.
Interrupting. Thank you. Amy's.
Oh God, that could have been.
Sorry, I didn't.
That would have been tippity top if you hadn't ruined it.
Sorry. I'm in the zone. I'm in the groove of what went on. Amy's like, hang on a minute, what's going on? Why am I kissing you? She's like, this is a little bit awkward. I think I got carried away in the moment a little bit. It wasn't at that stage him going in to kiss her and her pulling away, was it? And I think if that phone call hadn't interrupted them, she'd have had his stop
Who
it.
knows what would have happened?
She'd have had their tongue down his throat, I bet. But anyway, didn't get a chance. She realises that they can't be doing this. And they all head out to the bistro.
She tells them to get changed.
Yeah. So later on, they're in the bistro having a bit of a bop, a bit of a dance around. A bit of an empty bistro, wasn't it?
It was a glasses shaker.
They were. My theory is that everyone else had heard that Summer had been invited, so that's why the bistro was so empty. Apart from
honestly,
those teenagers.
Though, if I was on a Friday night, I said to you, just go and have a nice meal somewhere. Go to the bistro, open the door, and I see in front of me Aaron, Nina, Asher, Ardy dancing around.
I'll be like, this isn't for me.
Drunk on alcohol pops.
Let's go to Pizza Express.
I go to Speed Dial. They can't get served there.
So they're all set. They at one point they go and sit down in the booth. There's Amy, there's Asher, and Nina, and Summer, and because Summer turns up in the end.
Good.
And they're talking to Amy about. She
brings him a present. She gives Aaron a present.
Oh yeah, she does, doesn't she?
And he doesn't even open it.
No, what was that?
Condoms.
Maybe that's what gives him the idea for later. No, he ends up defending Amy because they're saying, oh, we need to get you on a dating site or something, and he says, oh, keep your nose out of Amy's business. So she gets out, storms out. She's fed up of them. She's not in the mood after the kiss. She thanks him for sticking up for her.
Still a bit drunk.
But yeah, exactly. She needs to get away. And then Aaron and Summer have one little arsey conversation to each other.
At the bistro.
Yeah, he says, you'll just... This is my celebration, and you're just a total buzzkill. You're bringing the mood down for this whole thing. I know. He obviously took a certain level of inebriation for him to finally give her these truth bombs that she needs. He's going to go home.
I'm pretty sure at one point, Abby comes in, and she sees Aaron celebrating, and she's like, oh, no. Oh, it was a joke promotion because there's no such thing as a junior mechanic. He's always been a normal mechanic. I can't say anything now.
I can't remember what Abby says.
He's already spent all this money on cheap Prosecco.
So Amy back at home is trying to call
And
Jake.
Debbie's there going, shut up, don't say anything. We'll make it a mint.
Amy's back at home trying to call Jacob, but can't get through, no connection or something. And then Aaron comes in, and he's like, "Oh, I don't want to split up with Summer, but at the same time,
She's boring.
She's really, really dull, and she's got all this drama going on." She says, "I don't want to argue with someone that I'm supposed to love."
That's half the fun.
I know, but they agree that love sucks,
Oh.
and they end up having a little sit down on the sofa, agreeing that this kiss earlier today meant nothing.
They're very
But,
close.
Before long, things start to get a little bit hot and heavy. So,
No, it doesn't.
well,
They're both sozzled. They're both reclining heavily.
yeah, they're
They've
there
got
on the sofa.
sharing a bottle.
Multiple
it back
bottles.
and
They're all
forth.
over each other. They're very, very kind
They're
of
not
touchy.
all over each other.
They're very,
You're
very
using
close.
euphemisms that mean something slightly different in a romantic. Like if you said it's hot and heavy and they're all over each other, it makes it sound like they're kissing. They're not. They're draping. They're sort of draping on each other.
Yeah.
They're very like.
There are no boundaries.
Aaron's like touching her lips and saying, "You go get me some alcohol."
Yeah, they're having a snuggle, aren't they?
If you didn't know any better, you would say they were flirting.
Yes, exactly. They are. But it's not that this excuses Aaron for what he did later, of course.
It doesn't really matter what leads up to
No, it doesn't.
a situation.
No, but
It's okay if she was doing that. It's okay if that's what was going on. But once you get to a certain stage,
Yes.
which we'll find out in a minute. Anyway, classic way of solving a problem,
what?
a dilemma.
What?
Thumb war.
Oh yeah, because they need to decide who's going to go off to the shop to get a new drink, don't they? So they thumb war it.
We used to do thumb wars all the time, but we don't do them anymore. Because you beat me because you've got a bigger thumb.
Yeah, I always beat you at thumb wars, so you're always going to go and get the drink. Anyway, Amy's like, "Oh, I just remembered I got some slow gin in the bedroom. I'm going to go and get that."
She said it tastes horrible. Well, sorry, but you tried pricking all the slows individually by hand.
No.
I feel very defensive of slow gin.
She goes off into the bedroom to try and find this bottle of slow gin, and Aaron, we see it from Aaron's perspective, and we hear a sound of her crashing down on top of something. He rushes into the bedroom, finds her on the floor with a drawer on top of her or something, so I don't know what she's been doing here, and he lifts her up onto the bed, and it looks like they're close to kissing again, and they have a bit of a snog. Then they kind of start undressing each other a little bit, but suddenly Amy, I don't know whether it's a kind
Amy
of
says, "I feel sick."
a realization of what's happening or what, but she's like, "Yeah, I feel
She
I
probably
feel sick."
genuinely wants to be sick.
Yeah, she's had a bit too much to drink, bless her. So she pulls away and ends up lying down on like her left hand side, leaning over
Away from him
with him behind her. Yeah,
with her hands on her head, like, "Oh,
yeah.
I'm having a hangover already."
But within seconds she's blotto, isn't she? She falls asleep. But he carries on like kissing her from behind and everything, and then we see him reaching his hand down towards her skirt, and the camera's like panning away off of the bed, and we kind of, it's very clear what's going on here. And the final shot of the episode is her knickers being tossed onto a wine bottle. He did get those off pretty fast, I have to say.
Yeah.
So
It's because we weren't looking. It was like, yes.
It looks like there was a little bit of
What?
little bit of a rapey business going on there.
It's
And
very difficult to talk
here comes
about
Corrie's
this
new issue storyline, everybody.
without resorting to being silly, because it's so uncomfortable. Making jokes is sort of like, what's it called? Our escape from feeling really
It was
about it.
When I knew that this story was coming, because when we went to when we were up in Manchester a couple of weeks ago,
Yes.
that just before then we'd been invited onto a Zoom press call with Ellen Mulvaney and James Craven.
Yes.
And we couldn't actually. I know we did some of it, didn't we?
We did some of it, but we had to
saw
rush off.
James speaking about this on Zoom, and then we had to rush off to go and have lunch with Ian Kershaw,
Yeah, we did.
so we weren't able to be on the Ellen Mulvaney chat, although they did very kindly send us a recording of it later. So we were in the land of Corrie, so I thought, yeah, whatever, we'll have a few spoilers coming our way. So we were prepared for this, but despite that, I was kind of watching it, and I was hoping that they would do a good job with it, and I think that they did, because as I was watching it, it just felt very, very uncomfortable.
I need to watch the interview back again because one of the reasons I was so very keen to watch the interviews and do the press conference is that the pitch was something, and maybe I misinterpreted it, or I heard that Aaron and Amy would both get drunk and then there would be a consent storyline.
Yeah.
And I thought, okay, I really need to be up on this, because if you're both drunk, what's the consent, what's the issue? I mean, I know there's an issue with consent, but how is this going to work? How is this going to be played? Because if you're both drunk, whose responsibility is it? Right? So I was thinking, because let's face it, how many times have you seen a rom-com or like a TV show where two characters come in from somewhere, they're both drunk, they've both had a nice meal or been to a party, they've both had alcohol, and then they kiss and they have sex with each other and it's brilliant and everyone's happy. And I was thinking, how are we talking about this? What's the not what is the issue with that, but what's the story going to be? But then when I actually saw it today, I was like, well, clearly, like, I can't see how anybody could watch this and go, well, I don't see what the problem is.
No.
It was very, very clear to me that Aaron should have stopped as soon as he knew that Amy wasn't responding in any way.
Well, exactly. I mean, up until that point, it definitely looked like he was on a promise, if you know what I mean, from Amy.
And that's I don't know what to say about that. They were both drunk, and they probably wouldn't have chosen to have done that if they hadn't have had alcohol. But the thing is, they were both in the same situation up until she falls unconscious.
Yeah, exactly. And what kind of made me realise, or one of the things that made me realise, no, this was absolutely wrong from Aaron, is although we didn't get to see what happened afterwards.
Yeah.
The implication is that he had sex with her while she was completely unresponsive, and just to imagine
how could you do that?
Exactly. And I know he was drunk and everything, but that's hideous.
It is, isn't it?
So I think that they showed enough that there can be really no excusing him. But I'm fascinated to find out what happens in the next episode, because I think they did say it on the press conference, but I've forgotten. But it makes complete sense to me for it to kind of go, Aaron saying, hang on a minute, Amy, you wanted it too. He's going to say, I didn't rape you. And Amy's going to say, I don't remember consenting. I don't remember anything that happened. I don't even remember it. There's going to be a very awkward scene, isn't there? I'm reckoning like the first scene on Monday's episode is going to be her waking up, and it's a bit like, when we had the scene with David a few years ago when Josh raped him, and we see him waking up and it kind of dawning on him slowly exactly what's happened to him, and that was superbly done. I always remember the scene of him kind of crouched in the shower afterwards, wasn't he? And he Jack was brilliant, and I think that this is gonna hopefully be, one of Elle Mulvaney's best scenes ever, when she realises what has happened. It's
going to be incredibly uncomfortable. The following, I don't know how they're going to pick it up on Monday. What we're gonna.
Well, like I said, I think it's going to be her waking up, realising. I think that I'm wondering whether he's going to remember, because they had an awful lot to drink, hadn't they? Are they both going to wake up and forget? Is he gonna on Monday go, hey baby, do you remember that last night? And I don't know, but I think that he's not going to think he raped her when there was clearly there was no consent. She was unconscious. You can't consent if you're unconscious. Yeah. But he's going to say, no, you were up for it. Yeah, he might even lie about her state of consciousness, because he could very well say, no, you were awake, you wanted this. God. You don't remember it because you were drunk, but you definitely did. I wonder whether that's going to be part of it. And I'm wondering just how much they're going to vilify Aaron here, because up to this point, he's been the fairly lovable, goofy, Cedric Diggory-ish, handsome, nice guy, hasn't he? Which makes this storyline going to him all the more interesting, I'd say. Up until this point, we're not supposed to hate Aaron. We're supposed to kind of almost feel sorry for him because of all the stuff he's had to put up with Summer.
Yeah, the fact he told Summer to do one makes him a hero in most people's eyes.
Well, he was absolutely right when he told Summer, "I've stood by you through thick and thin. You were going to have this other guy's child," and we saw her just making these decisions without consulting him at all, and he's just had to stand back. And there's been a couple of times when he's stood up for himself, but on the whole, he's been under her thumb because he loved her. So to have somebody that's a nice guy turn around and do this is going to make the conversation all the more interesting, because there's going to be lots of people. There's going to be a lot of Aaron fans out there, aren't there? Think of all the teenage girls that are watching Coronation Street and fancy Aaron, and now they're seeing their heart throb doing this. It's going to make it really, really difficult for them, and I think that's what Coronation Street want with this. It makes you realise that, there's no. He's just because he seems like he's a nice guy. Maybe he's not. Or
can I just point out the legions of Chris Brown fans who still think he's the bee's knees after what he did to Rihanna?
Yeah, no, that's very, very true. Well, it's going to open it up for debate then, isn't it? It's going to get people talking. Maybe we will still have some Aaron fans going, no, it's not his fault. Amy wanted it. And Coronation Street wants people talking about it. This is what this storyline's going to do really, really well, I think. I think that he's also, going back to what I was saying earlier, I wonder whether he's going to have Brian as a confidant, because they seem to have developed some kind of relationship, didn't they, with him and the bee dog. I wonder whether he's going to be like, hey, Amy says that I raped her, and Brian's going to be stuck between a bit of a rock and a hard place, because he was also fairly chummy with Amy. Surely he will have taught lessons in the past, or been very much aware of what consent is to teenagers, because he was just, I think, a teacher at the secondary school, wasn't he? He was the head teacher at the primary school, but a teacher at the secondary school. So he's going to come with all of that background knowledge. I wonder whether Abby's going to be involved in it as well, because she was kind of seemingly, she's a colleague of Aaron's. So I'm wondering whether there's going to be sides, and whether, I think this is going to be another opportunity if and when Amy opens up to Steve and Tracy. They're very, very loyal to her, aren't they? And I think it's going to be, two sides saying, this happened, no, this happened, he said, she said. Whereas really, the only people who know exactly what happened on that night is us, the viewers.
But it's
because Aaron's not going to remember completely the next day, I don't think, and Amy's, there's nothing to remember because she was unconscious.
I don't think it would be a good story if it was about he said, she said. I think it should be about consent. You're talking about a completely different story.
How do you mean?
Well, it's not a question of... It's a question of, did Amy agree to have sex with Aaron? That's the question. And she didn't.
No, she didn't. We know that. But I don't know whether in the cold light of day... It's not
he said, she said, is it then? It's not he said, she said. It's, is it okay if you were making out with somebody and they definitely wanted to have sex with you, but then they fell asleep, is it okay to just carry on? And lots of people still would go, yeah, well, they said they were, they were up for it.
It makes the skin crawl.
I know, it does. Some people would still not see that is wrong, and that's why we have to have this conversation. To some people, it's incredibly obvious, but to other people, they actually do need to have it explained. And I remember there was a famous analogy that went around, I can't remember, quite a few years ago, which is about making somebody a cup of tea. And if you ever get confused about whether somebody wants to have sex with you or not, just imagine that you're offering them a cup of tea. Now, in Aaron's case, Amy really wanted a cup of tea, but then she fell asleep. And when you're
She
asleep,
said she felt a bit sick.
You can't drink tea when you're asleep because you'll die.
Yeah, and you don't force feed tea
and you don't give people who are asleep tea. You put the tea next to them.
As lovely as the tea
and
is.
if they wake up and then they want the tea's there for them when they're ready.
Mm-hmm.
You can't just feed it to people when they're asleep.
Yeah.
So that's the golden rule there. And I'm sorry that Aaron didn't realise that.
There's got to be a story on this.
Yes,
and,
I know, but
Corrie has flirted with.
Listen, I'm not saying you're wrong about the side taking. But what I'm saying is, I don't think it's going to be he said, she said, he said, she said that she wanted to, and she said she didn't. It's not about that. It's a slightly different way of looking at it. And I'm sure there's going to be, well, I don't know what the story's going to be, but you can imagine Abby, for example, saying, look, okay, yeah, the lad did something wrong, but you're going to ruin his life over it? You know, he's so young, he made a mistake. And other people saying, no, hang on a minute, this wasn't just any mistake, he's raped her. She was unconscious.
It would be dangerous to have Abby take his side, because we as viewers are clearly not supposed to take his side now. But who would they throw under the bus to have? But
isn't there some value in saying it is possible to be a good person and do a bad thing? I think Aaron's a good person and he's done a bad thing.
Yeah, he's made a real poor.
I don't think one bad thing makes everything you've ever done bad.
No.
And I think it's so dangerous, and I think as a society we're constantly being forced into this stupid idea that if somebody does something you don't agree with, then you can't support anything they ever do or say anything good about them ever. There's no nuance. There's only black and white, and that's a really dangerous, puritanical, scary way of thinking about people.
Yeah.
I'm not saying humanise people who victimise people. I'm not saying let's reassess, I don't know, Jeffrey Dahmer. No. Although, actually, that's what the TV show, not that I finished watching it, but you know what I mean? You can look at somebody as a human being and you can say, look, the thing is, at the end of the day also, it's not down to us, it's down to Amy. What does she think about what's happened? We don't know yet.
No. I wonder who Amy is going to confide in first. Because who's she got? She's got Summer. Is she going to go to Summer and say, your boyfriend slept with me last night and I don't really remember? I don't think Summer's going to get that.
Summer's not going to be helpful.
No, and she's not going to go, what, Aaron, I kind of still love him. He wouldn't rape you. You slept with my boyfriend. So that's a really dodgy ground there to speak to her.
Yeah.
It feels like, I don't know whether her relationship with her mum and dad is close enough that she would go straight to them. I think she might eventually, but I think she when she was going through the pregnancy and everything, she didn't want to talk to them straight away, did she? Because it was Granny Liz that she confided in.
Was it significant that we saw her with all of her peers?
Maybe.
Is it Asher? Asher and Nina could be.
In a way, I kind of hope so, because Asher and Nina and Ardy have been very much on the sidelines. He's not. Ardy will be
useless in this storyline.
Okay, fine. In this storyline,
if I'm Amy, I'm not going to be like, Ardy, can I talk to you for a minute? Oh, think about it.
Maybe it should be Asher then. Who we just find out? Didn't she get some university offer or something this week?
She's like, I don't care. I'm going to university. Sort yourself out.
So I'm really interested to see. Does she just keep it to herself, or does she have a confidant?
Poor Amy.
Is Brian the person in the middle? If Aaron tries to say, Brian, this is what it looked like from my point of view. Help me. Yeah. And then Amy's going to Brian saying, I think this, and I don't know whether Brian is capable of being able to deal with both of those things at once.
If you're Aaron, what the hell do you do now? What do you do now?
It depends how quickly he's willing to admit that he did something wrong and say sorry. True. But saying sorry doesn't really
cut it.
No, it doesn't. But what should he do? I don't know.
Amy is gonna feel so violated. Yeah. She trusted him, and she literally just fell asleep, and he did one of the worst things it's possible to do. And it is, I guess it's a lesson too to people who think that rape has to be violent, or it has to be with somebody who wouldn't want to sleep with you.
Yeah.
you know, there are so many different ways.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's a far cry from, you know, the Toya rape 20 years ago, isn't it?
I think the Toya rape was the sort of thing that people really, the way people used to talk about rape.
Yeah, someone getting attacked.
A woman walking around somewhere, you know, scary looking, attacked by somebody she doesn't really know that well. And now we're seeing, actually, it's more likely that you'll be raped by somebody that you know already. And you know, odds are it'll be somewhere that you thought you were safe, which I mean, it's horrible to say and it's scary to listen to. And you know, we saw that video that Corrie posted where
with Ellie.
Yeah, and it's at the beginning of it. It says 1 in 4 women have been raped or sexually assaulted as adults.
I know. That was a shocking statistic there.
Yeah.
I'm interested to see how long will this go and what will the long-term implications be for Amy, because I feel like quite protective over Amy, because she has been, out of all of these teens really, the character that we've seen grow up and develop the most. I know that you know, Asha, played by Tanisha, has been in the show for just about as long, but not as such of a main character. But we've seen this girl grow from a cute little sweet, you know, 9-10-year-old to this, and now this has happened. So I'm like, yeah, feel fiercely protective over her, and I in a way I want the storyline to keep going. I want her to have, you know, her big story, but I don't want it to damage the character so much that she's not the same. And I certainly don't want her to go down the I'm this year's, you know, sad crying woman of the year and everything wrong always happens to me.
Okay, yeah, but we are, just to be obvious and clear about this, we are talking about a fictional character here.
What? Yeah.
Yeah, I know, but I just don't want people to run away with the idea that, you know...
I'm not saying she just get over it, because it's not that very interesting to watch.
Exactly, no. And this is the thing... yeah.
I can't think at the moment, because I have very little creativity in me at this time of night, how this can stretch to that long a storyline, but I kind of want it to, just because I think that Amy is a fantastic character and I think that she deserves to have a big storyline. I think now is the time, because her pregnancy storyline, sorry, that was a bit of a dud, wasn't it? And that was over and done with in about a month, it felt like. This could be the making of her, and she's grown up now. I just thought it was funny watching them being adults.
I thought it was so cute when they were all having their party.
Yeah.
But it was tragic because you knew something horrible was going to happen to you know. And the thing is about it is that I'm pretty sure that it's going to rip them all apart.
Yes.
As a friend group, because I don't know how they're going to fall.
Yeah,
I just
people
think
are going to take sides, aren't they?
It's going to be a more interesting story if they do. And
is Ardy going to take Aaron's side as, you know, the only other guy in the group? Is it going to be Asha on Amy's side, Ardy on Aaron's side? Maybe Nina's going to have to side with Asha, but maybe she in her heart she's teaming with Aaron. I'm really interested. All I can say is I don't know. I don't know whether Aaron's going to come out of this in one piece, because especially if he doesn't show repentance pretty quickly, I think that once you've been a rapist in Coronation Street, you've got a bit of a shelf life. And I'm wondering whether, like, I can't remember when Aaron first came into the show, but it was, I'm going to say, you know, late spring last year, maybe, is poor James Craven on a 1-year contract that is soon going to go. And he's going to leave the show being a rapist, which sucks. As a character, imagine somebody as young as him going, yeah, look at me, I'm in Coronation Street, I've got a part on the biggest British soap, and I'm playing a nice guy, and then a year later it's like, off you go, rapist.
Yeah, I mean, it's repugnant, and
yeah,
I just want to say that they're all doing a fantastic job.
Oh gosh,
and I know that
they are
James
all very, very capable.
And they take this very seriously, this storyline, and they care very much about making sure that the issue is explored and the story is sensitively done. And it is very tricky, and like we just said, you know, I'm thinking about everyone listening here. You know, that statistic we just said, there's going to be lots of people listening who have probably had this happen.
Yeah.
And that makes me so sad.
Yeah, yeah.
And it I mean, I don't know what to say in that to people. You know, I don't know what to say.
No,
but I hope that if it is of any comfort to you to see somebody overcome it or experience it, then this story might help you.
Amy will overcome it.
And some people have that, can watch something and really feel empowered by watching their story happen on screen, and some people don't. And if that's you, then I think it would probably be a good idea to skip. You know? Yeah. Don't make yourself watch something that's going to really upset you.
Take you to too dark a place.
I know. You guys know. I've done stuff like that with stories before that upset me. Don't let it take you somewhere dark if you're not prepared for that. Nobody can make you know better than anybody else where you are with it.
Yeah.
But it's a very interesting, different storyline, and I think a lot of people might. I'm sure on Twitter they're going, another rape story. Oh, we just had David. Oh, you know, Toya, sexual assault. Oh, woke, whatever. But it really is important to talk about these things. Mm. And I am just interested to see, like you say, about what happens with Aaron.
We've now got.
I don't want anyone to come away from this thinking I'm going, just think about the people that have done the rape. What about them? They're victims too. Obviously, that's not what I mean. But I want to see what will happen with Aaron. And it really, you're right, it's dependent on how much he recognises.
Yeah.
But again, for the purposes of the character, it would be good if he immediately realised he'd done something wrong and did whatever it took to help Amy. But for a story about consent, that really can't happen, can it? Because otherwise it would just be like every time anyone does anything on Corrie, they go, "I'm sorry," and the person says, "Never mind, not your fault." And then, well, let's just agree to disagree. Would you like a cup of tea? No, I'm asleep. Doesn't work like that, does it? So I think he's going to be deny.
He's going to be in denial.
He's going to be like, well, no, yeah.
He's going to say that
we're
she was
say
up
all the
for
things
it.
that we said he might say.
Yeah.
So,
and I think that the way they've plotted it, although it was clear that she wasn't up for it, the way they presented everything made it. They made it easy for him to be able to say.
Yeah,
maybe.
And I think if you've experienced this yourself, I don't think you're going to enjoy watching us all wring our hands over poor Aaron and wonder how on earth he'll get over this.
No.
It would be very cathartic to see Aaron immediately turn into a villain who denies and continues to make the experience terrible. You know, it's terrible to have this happen to you, but then to have somebody deny it happened to you, that would be another violation on top, wouldn't it?
I just don't want them to change the character of Aaron too much.
I know, but
I think he's going to say, "Well, I'm Aaron. I'm a nice guy. Of course I wouldn't do something like that." This is the
crossroads that they're at, isn't it? Because it's one thing to make it an interesting story or to explore something, and it's another thing to go into this knowing full well how many people across the country are watching this who have had this happen to them and going, "Oh, but both sides," you know. Is that helpful to the people that have experienced this, or would a kind of retribution storyline where if you haven't experienced justice in your own life, you get to watch it happen to somebody, you know, that would be really cathartic for a lot of people.
Yeah.
It's really tricky.
And you know,
it's a big task ahead of
I think I'm going to
Coronation
trust
Street.
that they've done a good job. I hope it's not over quickly, because, like I
I
said,
don't know if
Amy's
it needs to be dragged out.
It doesn't need to be dragged out, but Amy's pregnancy storyline was a flub because it was over and done with. Even things like the upskirting
I don't need this to be
the
a long...
protests and
Oh, that was
everything,
silly.
that was over far too quickly. I need it to be a good medium length story, I'm going to say, but I'm fascinated by it. So whereas the Stephen storyline, I'm really interested in just
What,
for
the scaffolding?
No. The Stephen drugging LSD
Oh,
Carla factory.
Yeah.
I'm interested in
That can
just
go
for
on
the
forever.
campy silliness of it. This is like pure character, I hope.
Is it character or is it issues? I think that's what it boils down to.
If they get it right, this could be a good balance of both, I would hope. And
Wow.
I don't want them to just change the characters to fit the storyline. I think they've chosen some really good characters to play this out with.
Yes,
Yeah.
good actors, and like I said before, if they're doing an issue-based storyline that everyone feels comfy watching and nobody has any questions about, then it's not really worth doing.
No. Shall we move on?
It's honestly, that was really hard to talk about, and again, it's one of these things I never thought I'd be on a podcast talking about.
I think you did a good job there.
I don't
know. Hey Gemma. Pull my finger.
I shan't.
Every week it's going to be like this. Pull my finger. This is a bit of a dull story. I did say, was it last week when his fingers started getting a bit wonky with the darts? I was like, oh, this is kind of interesting. What's happening with Paul? But my kind of overall impression with it this week was, oh, he's got funny fingers. Oh no, poor him. And now he's being Mr.
I think this is interesting. Are you reading this or am I?
This is your turn.
Well, then you can be quiet if you don't like it.
Okay.
On Monday, Paul is struggling to tie shoes at work, and it's not just to do with his general...
I'm used to Velcro, and my mum's bought me a new pair of lace-up shoes.
He nearly chops his hand off.
Oh yeah, he does on the rotary saw.
I was didn't know where to look. He had
I did. I was like, of course he's not gonna. This isn't, this
I
isn't a slasher movie.
I wonder if he might cut himself a little bit. I was very worried. Somehow Ed saw through his back that he was about to chop his hand off.
This is just that would have been a good I'd have been more interested in the story if he had accidentally chopped his hand off, and then the story is how does he cope without a hand. I mean, already it is his right hand, isn't it?
Is he right-handed?
Good job he's got a boyfriend now.
No. So Paul decides that it'd be a good idea, even though he can't use both his hands, to try to chop something in half with a saw. Ed stops him and sends him home. So when he goes home, he says to Billy, I nearly chopped my bloody hand off. It's felt funny since the accident. And Billy's like, what? It's a soap accident. You're normally fine.
He literally just fell off a bike.
You fell off a bike, you weren't even in a coma.
Audrey had a bike land on her the other day.
Audrey was under that bike for hours.
Yeah.
You were under it for minutes. So Billy's like, look, take it easy. Take some time off work. And Paul's like, no, I promised Gemma I'd give her, what was it, £4,000 for a gas bill.
I'm so good, I'm so lovely. Oh, Paul, I'm so charitable. Everybody loves me.
All right. So he goes round to number 5 and he says, sorry, Gem. I can't help you with the money because now I can't go to work. And this is the trouble about the fact, Paul's a contractor, isn't he? He's kind of self-employed by Ed.
Know.
Well, if he was a proper employee, then Ed would have to pay him sick leave, but he doesn't.
A very good point.
So this is the trouble about that kind of work. It's very tricky. So he says, sorry, I don't want to let you down, but I can't do any more work. And Gemma says, why don't you sue Carla? And he says, I don't really want to. But
I don't really want. Carla's already got another storyline she's involved in.
Can she be in 2 storylines?
Can she do 2? Oh, that's a bit of an ask.
Do you think she'd pay me off so she doesn't have to do 2 storylines? So Paul goes round to see Ed again and says, I can't afford not to work. I need to support my family. And Ed says,
left-handed jobs for me.
I know, it's like, can you not do some paperwork with your left hand? Ed says, I understand, but you can't work here until you've got a clean bill of health, so you've got to go to I'll keep your job open for you.
Sounded like you said a clean bell of health. Is that like the bell that you ring at the end of your cancer treatment? Like, dong, you can go back to work again?
Maybe. Back at the flat later, Paul and Billy are talking about liability claims, and Dee Dee is like, I know about laws. You should definitely sue Carla for the negligence. You could get tens of thousands of pounds. And Paul's like, what? Yeah, that sounds great. Could you be my lawyer, please?
Not for greed, because, oh no, not St. Paul. Think of all those tens of thousands of pounds. Think of how much that can heat the number 5 with their extortionate gas bill. Sorry, it just really rubbed me out the wrong way this
on
week.
Wednesday. Why are you so mad about it?
I don't know.
We'll talk about it in a minute.
Yeah.
What?
Nothing, no, go on.
Oh, there's something else you were going to tell me earlier on.
I told you.
Oh,
I told you. It was about the Brian being a confidant for Aaron.
Okay.
Potentially.
On Wednesday, he goes to see Dr. Gaddis, and she says, Paul, you've got a bruised nerve. It could take anywhere from 1 block of stories to 10. Well, she says something like it could take up to 3 months.
Yeah.
To recover. If at all.
Gaddis looking sharp as always, I have to say.
Fabulous.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, oh no, what about my hand? I need it. And Gemma goes with him, and she says, please help. Dee Dee needs to help you.
Why did Gemma go to the doctors with her brother? Is that not a bit weird?
I don't know.
Is it a twin thing?
It's not to do with his penis, so it's fine.
Well, it could be. You won't let me talk.
I know. Carla tells Peter that it turns out that she wasn't actually insured to drive the van, and she certainly wasn't insured to drive over people with it. And Peter goes over to see Paul and says, how you doing? And he's like, my hand hurts still. I feel bad about it, but I do need to get compensation, and I'm going to have to go after Carla. And Peter says, would you like £15,000? But if I give you the £15,000, you can't come back and ask for any more. That's the end of it. 15 grand, done. And Paul's like, yeah, great. So he gets the money. He tells Dee Dee, and Dee Dee's like, what the hell? Number 1, we don't know how long you're going to be out of action for. Number 2, I'm your lawyer. Half of that is mine. Don't you think?
Yeah.
She hasn't mentioned fees or anything.
No, Dee Dee's fees.
Yeah, so you need to give it back. This could be serious nerve damage. We need to actually find out what the diagnosis properly is before you accept money. So in the pub later, Paul says to Peter, I'll give you the money back, because Dee Dee says we need to wait a bit longer. Then Dee Dee talks to Carla and says, give me your insurance details so we can get the money off of them. And Carla says, I wasn't insured. And Dee Dee says, in that case, we're going to have to sue you. So this turned from a victimless crime, taking back off the insurance companies, to specifically targeting Carla, which is a bit awkward.
Especially when she's going through 1 or 2 financial issues of her own at the factory at the moment. So I'm kind of thinking that these stories will properly merge at one point.
That extra 5% that they got out of the North American deal for
for Nippersnapper,
wacky races or whatever it was, then that'll come in handy, won't it?
Yeah.
Gemma and Paul talk about it in the Rovers later, and he's like, I just want to get back to work. I don't want to do any of this. I just want my hand to be fine. And she says, don't worry, we might end up with loads of wonga. On Friday, Paul sees Ed in a cafe and says he's going to get booked on a course of physio. Oh, it made me laugh, because when they go to see Dr. Gaddis, Paul's like, what do you mean it's going to take 3 months? Can I make it go faster? What can I do? And Dr. Gaddis says, I can ask the physio if they've got any open spaces, but they're usually quite booked up. I'll just go. She never comes back.
No.
Which makes me think that she's like, oh, damn it, it's going to be about 4 months before you can even get physio. It's not bother. So Paul tells Ed about this physio course, and then he gets a text message. He runs to the bank, goes to number 5, and he gives Chesney a big wad of cash, because turns out he, in his infinite wisdom, which is why I wasn't convinced he could tie his shoes before his hands went wonky, he's got a loan out because he knows he's going to get the compo, so he's going to get the loan out, pay it off when the compo comes in, but in the meantime, here's the money to pay a gas bill. And Chelsea's like, no, I can't take this. And Paul's like, no, I insist. Then Chesney gives Ed a free kebab for telling Paul that his job was open for him until his hand is fixed. Then they talk about the money with Billy, who's there, and he's confused. Why has Paul got all this money? So back at home, Billy confronts Paul about the money and says, "Don't take a loan out." And Paul's like, "I can't let my family freeze to death, can I? Don't tell me what to do. I'm a grown man."
That's the end of the story for this week. Managed to stretch across 3 episodes.
I think this is interesting because it cuts into a lot, cost of living crisis, the gas and energy bills.
Where there's a blame, there's a claim.
The fact that Paul doesn't really want to do this, but he's being forced into it. I find that very interesting because I would feel the same way. I wouldn't want to take money off people.
I know, I would feel the same as well. I just don't think Paul is in any way a compelling character. So it's to do with the fact that it's him really that I've got a bit of a problem with it.
I remember,
but every time that they try and make Paul be a do-gooder, I'm like, no, you came into the street as a bit of a dodgy guy. Ish.
I know. It's like, honestly, it's like, I'll do the money, but only for the lovely children and my sister. So wonderful and lovely. But
People
really, he'd be buying himself a second unicorn onesie as soon as he gets his hands on that cash, and it would be Del Monte encrusted.
No, I just think that people who come across as too selfless,
it doesn't feel right.
It just winds me up.
It just sounds fake.
It is. I don't think anyone's whiter than white like that. And yeah, he's a really nice guy, but it doesn't strike me. Doesn't strike me as being really true.
My stomach.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So, I'm not fussed by it. I have to say. I'm sure that it is going to lead to more financial ruin for Carla.
Well, it's going to lead to financial ruin for Paul if he's taking out a loan and he doesn't actually have any way of paying it off.
Oh well, I don't know.
I mean, I know that Coronation Street. There's not really a way to explain this in a way that makes sense, and people are struggling with their gas bills, but there's no way that Gemma and the quads are gonna freeze to death. They're not gonna turn off the heating.
No.
And so they don't need to pay it's not like they're adding. I don't think they add interest to it, do they?
I don't know.
If you owe them money, I mean, they certainly don't give it to you if they owe you money.
I got no idea.
So they can wait. They don't need the money that instant. He doesn't need to have taken this loan out. I just worry that the thing I worry about is that they haven't talked through any possible solutions to Gemma and Chesney's problem with having all this debt on their electricity bill.
Well, even if he's gonna,
I know that there aren't.
He's gonna pay a load of money if and then that's just gonna get debt again, probably.
I know that there's not that many solutions, but there are more than none. And the other thing that I think is a bit irritating is Billy just going, "Not my problem, not my problem." Sorry, Archdeacon. These parishioners of yours who are raising children in poverty.
You've not had much in the collection plate recently, Billy, that you could maybe spare.
Get them a heat pump, like you keep bloody going on about heat pumps all the time.
Yeah.
Suddenly, you don't know heat pump to be seen anywhere.
Yeah, maybe Todd can steal them one.
You'd think he would go, I'll ask everyone at Sunday service if they can do a special charity drive to get you some money to pay your bill off. That's the sort of thing that a vicar or an archdeacon surely would love to do to get in the papers.
He's too busy serving soup to the homeless. Sorry,
Gemma. If you wanted some soup, I could help you out, but you would have to heat it up yourself, and I guess you can't.
No, I don't know.
And what's happened to all her money she's getting off of babysitting for everybody? She's getting £35.
Yeah, that's a very good point. Very good point. Well,
it doesn't cost her
she's
£35.
losing money because Sally's stealing Glory away to try and trick Faye into thinking that she wants to be a mum, isn't she? It's like
Faye's like, "What do you mean? I get £35 for every day I look after my own kid." I didn't know this.
Right, I'm going to move on to the next story. Maybe that's going to be a bit more inspiring next week, but I'm totally not at the moment.
Sorry if anybody hears weird noises. My stomach's making weird noises.
Yeah, Gemma's bubbling away down there. But it is from her tum.
Down there.
Not that far down. All right. What is interesting me more is look who's stalking. I'm gonna say that
me too. The cake samples.
This. Oh gosh, yeah. This had Gemma as well, didn't it? I don't think that compared to previous weeks, this was as high up there in the drama stakes, but it was going along nicely. So Daisy on Monday gets a message from the wedding caterer saying, "Oh, we're getting some cake samples through today. Fantastic. There's nothing I like more at the moment," says Daisy. "It's getting deliveries." Because surely it couldn't be Justin again that's delivering to me. He's the only delivery man in Weatherfield. And Daniel, meanwhile, is telling her, "Look, you need to talk to the police about Justin confronting you, because if you remember last Friday night,
throw chips on the ground."
Exactly. It was high drama.
Never forget
High drama there last week. And next scene of this story, we got the cake delivery, and what do you know? It is Justin who comes. And she's like, "I can't believe you're sick. What are you doing here? After what happened last Friday, now you're delivering me these rhubarb and custard cakes or whatever they are." Was that what it was? Disgusting.
That was the winning flavour.
Why would you do that?
What do you mean?
Why would you have a rhubarb and custard wedding cake? It sounds rank.
How do you imagine it tastes? How do you imagine it's made?
Oh, with rhubarb. Yeah. Why would you want rhubarb in a wedding cake? Sorry, that's almost, in my book, that's as bad as having something as out there as fruit cake as a wedding cake. Plain sponge was good enough for me at our wedding, lass.
We didn't even eat our wedding cake. I still to this day don't know what happened to it. We didn't have a single piece of it.
I had a little bit of it.
Oh, well, you must have been the only one.
I had a little bit, but no, rhubarb and
That
I can
would
see
be nice.
I can see Daniel maybe going
a
for that, just so that he can think that he's doing better.
Custard patisserie, creme patisserie filling. You know that Boston cream pie that I make?
Oh yeah, that's
that Nigella Lawson one. That's got a nice custard middle. You wouldn't even notice if the cake tasted of rhubarb, because it wouldn't touch the sides.
I think
you swallow it whole.
I think that Daniel likes the idea of having a rhubarb and custard cake, just because so he can keep this pretentious air about him.
He'd be like, "What flavour wedding cake did you have?" Oh, well.
Raisins.
Oh, you didn't ask, but I had rhubarb and custard.
And I don't know about that. But anyway, that doesn't happen.
What do you mean doesn't happen?
No, that's later, isn't it?
Well, he's delivered the cake.
Yeah, Justin's delivered the cake, and then he scarpers once Daniel shows up, doesn't he? So they're inside, and they're worried that these cakes might be poisoned. So Gemma's like, "I got a stomach lined with lead, let me to be your cake tester." And just as a special treat to all the guys and girls on digital spy forums that loved the scenes of Gemma stuffing her face with cake and eating with her mouth full, we were treated to at least a minute-long scene of her just trying all these different cakes. And it was probably funny
Dolly
to
Rose
be
Campbell.
there.
I do not know how much cake she had
How
to
many
eat
takes did that
to get through. I mean, you wouldn't know that she, she was giving it as good as she could.
Yeah, she was. But gross out Gemma has not been my favourite Gemma, I have to say. We found a little bit of trivia about this. Did you see? You I don't know whether you noticed the reply, but you tweeted that the red, what's it called? The bakery, Red Velvet.
Oh no, what are you talking
Red
about?
Butterfly.
Right.
Bakery, is that what it's called, that provides the cakes for Coronation Street? And you asked them whether they had to make a rhubarb and custard cake, and they said no, it was just a Victoria sponge, because they didn't think anyone would want to eat the rhubarb and custard cake. I just remembered that now. So anyway, Gemma's there stuffing her face full of cake.
You missed the other reply, because I named all the cake flavours, and they said I had a good eye.
You do have a good eye,
because I know cake by looking at it.
You don't even like cake though, do you? You're not a cake eater.
I really am not.
No.
I feel like it. I feel bad about it, because it feels like one of those things, like Daniel would say, "I don't really eat cake because I'm too advanced."
I don't understand what your problem with cake is.
I don't want to have a problem with cake. I'm just not into sweet things anymore.
Anyway, possibly sadly for some Coronation Street viewers, the cake is not poisoned, although Gemma does end up reclining on the sofa, groaning with her stomach out, I think, doesn't she? So Daisy heads out the back for some fresh air, and she ends up being found by Daniel in the cafe later, and he's like saying, "Look, I know this is really tough, everything that you're going through, but honestly, you need to rise above this." And she says, I just don't feel safe knowing that Justin's out there, and he could just be... Look, here's the solution, Daisy. Don't open the door.
No.
And like we said, didn't we say on the podcast last week, number one is the house that's supposed to have the Ring doorbell.
Yeah, they would have a video.
Check who the delivery boy is before you open the door.
That's not the solution if you're being stalked.
It's not. But there's ways and means of making it slightly.
What does Daniel say he's going to do?
He says he's going to ring the delivery company and stop the delivery.
He's like, I went onto Twitter and everyone keeps saying, why don't Daisy and Daniel? So I'm going to do it then.
Yes. So
but
unfortunately, thank you for providing.
Yes.
My
continue. They weren't helpful.
They weren't very helpful. They said, look, just put your complaint in writing. And Daniel's like, writing, you say? That's my forte.
Dearest
although I don't know
sir
whether he actually
or
does
madam.
that. Yeah. So anyway, he talks to Ken about the situation later, and he's kind of worried for Bertie's safety as well. He says Daisy's turned into a quivering wreck, and Ken's like, well, you'll get
Ken's like,
through
I don't
this. Can we have a bit of cake, please? Wednesday, Daisy is stressing again because today's drama is that her hairstylist has had to back out.
When is this wedding?
I say Wednesday, I mean Thursday. Isn't it May?
Why has she got to have her hairstylist now?
She's got to get it all sorted. Who it's going to be and everything. I know traditionally on Coronation Street it is always Audrey or Maria that do anyone's wedding hair.
But apparently she's too good for that.
That was a funny scene, wasn't it? She was there slagging off Maria to Jenny because Jenny's like, "Don't worry, love, I've booked Maria for you."
Yeah, the hairstylist is not doing it anymore.
Yeah, so Jenny
she has to get an alternative.
Yeah, I'm explaining this perfectly well. I believe she has to get an alternative, and then Jenny's like, "Got you, Maria," and Daisy's saying, "Oh, not many Maria." She said the Queen of the Blue Rinse Okay, I'm not explaining this very well at all.
No, you
the
carry
Queen
on.
of the Blue Rinse Brigade, and if I wanted a curly perm or whatever, then I'd go to her. But no, I don't want her for my wedding. And then we have the Maria walks up behind her, and I quite liked how they did the Daisy was saying, Jenny says she's behind you, and Daisy's like, no, you're not fooling me with that. But she really was, and Maria hears herself getting slagged off. But they end up going back to this. But Daisy goes to the salon later with her tail between her legs, doesn't she? Just to try because despite the fact that this wedding is months away, Maria is her only chance now. So she goes there to talk wedding hair, and it ends up turning into a conversation about the stalking and everything, and they bond over shared storylines because Maria also had her fair share of stalking last year, and her parting sage advice to Daisy is you need to get this sorted, missus, before you end up dead in a ditch. So nobody wants that. Friday,
she says to her, I had a stalker and he put a tracking device in my handbag.
He did?
So don't worry about that because they won't use that twice.
She's like, I was a stalker once. I stalked Tyrone. So let me tell you the inside.
Listen,
This is how you do a stalker. So I know.
Why don't you stalk him back?
Yeah, nice.
Double stalk.
So Daisy on Friday talks to Jenny about this chat with Maria, how she's inspired her to go to the police station and demand a protection order. Is it called something else? A stalking protection order, which is basically the police saying no more stalking, otherwise you're going to prison or something like that.
Well, it's a good job we looked this up.
You can look it up if you want to. Stalk and protection order. Qu'est-ce que c'est?
It's not a stalk and protect order.
No.
That's what he thinks he's doing already.
So later on, Daisy's been granted a hearing next week, so that's lovely. So the storyline's going to be ramping up next week.
We've had a last minute cancellation.
Last minute cancellation at the courts, probably. She wants Adam to represent her, and Adam says, oh, well, yeah, shouldn't they get your hopes up? You've got to have a lot of evidence for this. And Daisy has got a lot of evidence at this point, hasn't he? Adam's still saying, oh, it's not really a crime. He hasn't really done anything. And I just finding that very difficult to believe.
This is the sort of thing that I was saying about coercive control, though.
What?
Because a lot of it is, not all of it, but some of it is your perception of what's happening to you. And anyone could say, this person keeps following me around, but it would be incredibly detrimental to society if you could slap a restraining order on everybody just because you didn't like them, and then they can't go to Tesco. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Like, it is your perception of what's happening to you, because, Justin is doing the sort of thing that used to be the lead character's job in 90s rom-coms. And at the end of the film,
to bug the woman into submission.
And at the end of the film, she'd go, "All right then,
give us a
I guess I do love you."
Yeah,
I was just playing hard to get.
So anyway, Daisy's mum turns up. Christine turns up, which was a bit of a surprise. I wasn't expecting her to be back until the wedding. I think she's great. When she was in it a month or so ago, I remember enjoying her. But in the intervening weeks, I thought, what was so good about her?
She's got such a winning smile.
She does. She's just got a great presence. She's a really kind of... She comes across to me as like a proper, solid, dependable...
Warm.
Believable... well-rounded character. And straight away she's in there sniping at Jenny, isn't she? With a couple of remarks. Have you found that?
I just remembered one thing that Adam did say to them was that it has to be an explicit threat of violence.
Yeah.
And I don't think he's actually done that she can prove.
No, I mean there are some text messages he sent
there was that one
can
that
be
said,
inferred. You know,
yeah,
you're better off
exactly.
dead and so am I, or something like that.
Yeah.
Like that,
I found this on burtoncopeland.com and
Go
it
on.
says stalking is not actually defined in law, but police and Crown Prosecution Service describe it as a pattern of unwanted, fixated and obsessive behaviour which is intrusive. It can include harassment that amounts to stalking or stalking that causes fear of violence or serious alarm or distress to the victim.
Okay.
I
And a stalking
don't know. See, this is the
protection
thing.
order?
It's not that easy. It's not that easy to prove it because it's not the same as like I said. It's not the same as somebody got stabbed. Well, definitely I can tell a crime was committed because you're not supposed to have a stab hole in you. Do you see?
Yeah. So I'm just saying on the iPad there that if you get a stalking protection order made against you, it doesn't mean you've got a criminal record. You've just got
It's an interim stalking protection order, and it can it's about it says 2 years and it can last 2 years.
It's just an official leave her alone.
And it's one of these things where I think you can either have it to say don't come near this person, or you have to go and get a mental health check, or you're not allowed to take drugs or alcohol. You're not to take drugs anyway.
No. So Christine I think that's her only scene tonight. I'm guessing that
Christine was there to go, well, women these days...
Oh, yeah, that's right. She didn't she?
Women these days, they don't want a cup of tea. They don't want chocolates.
Yeah, she thinks that Daisy's making a mountain out of a molehill of this, and that was the same stance that she took a few weeks ago. But that kind of...
it's important to have somebody like Christine.
Yeah.
Because she represents lots of people who think the same way. Can't have everybody saying, oh no, how terrible, because some people would say... It's not really a big deal, though, is it?
Exactly. So then we have a really lovely scene with Daisy going into the back room with Jenny, and they're talking about it, and she's like, "You don't think I'm OTT or anything, do you?" And Jenny's like, "No way." And then Daisy starts getting a load of texts from Justin. So somehow he's got hold of her new number, and I haven't got any kind of theories around that one yet.
Well, I wondered whether it was something to do with the court case.
How?
Well, did they have to provide some kind of... Well, say you accuse somebody of something, the police come and say you've been accused of a crime, and you say who by. They're not going to go, "Oh, it's secret. Wouldn't you like to know?" Yeah, they probably tell them.
But they're not going to say, "Here's the phone number of the person that's accusing you of stalking
Maybe they
them."
accidentally wrote it down somewhere.
Maybe it's like, prove you're not a stalker. Here's her phone number, and if you can stop yourself from texting her, then we'll let you off.
Yeah.
And he's like, I'll take that challenge, and like, no.
Oh, damn it.
5 minutes later, there we go. So he's got a load of texts. But basically, he texts her to say he's not happy about this court summons, understandably. And Daisy's like, no, I need to do what I need to do. Screenshot the message. And then she just has a big old... She dissolves into tears in Jenny's arms. And I thought that was lovely. Jenny being
had a hug.
That was a proper, like,
she was the real
mum and daughter...
Yeah.
moment, and
that was the mum she needed. We've not seen the mum she had.
Yes, we've seen lots of Jenny kind of telling her off a little bit as a mum, or saying, right, you've gone too far this time, lady. But a lot of the time, it feels like there's more of a matey relationship between them, isn't there? And this was a proper "I got you, girl" sort of scene, and I liked that to end the episode.
In order to get a stalking protection order, there are 3 stages. Okay.
I want to know them all.
You have to be satisfied with 3 criteria according to Burton Copeland. Right. The respondent has carried out acts associated with stalking, like posting on the social media, telling up where they work, sending flowers or gifts, that they should know that the person doesn't want.
Yeah.
Okay. Then this court must be satisfied that the respondent poses a risk associated with stalking to the other person in respect of physical or psychological harm or causing damage to property.
Psychological harm.
Can she prove that she needs to go to Dr. Gaddis and say, look, I'm stressed out.
She needs to have some kind of breakdown, doesn't she?
She
Chuck a
needs
few
to, how do you
glasses around the
prove that you're
rovers.
being psychologically affected? Everyone keeps going, like, then
maybe
it's like,
she just
she's always
needs-
bloody going on about it and crying.
Maybe she just needs to show her phone records so that she phoned up the ITV helpline advice number. It's like, look, I phoned the number that Corrie told me to phone, so there's clearly something going wrong here.
And the third criteria, which seems like the most important one, is that, which seems a bit redundant though, the third criteria for the making of the full order is that the court must find that it is necessary to make the order to protect another.
That seems like a waste of time extra one, really. I think if you tick number 1 and 2, then number 3 is going to come naturally. But okay, fine. So let's wait until next week to find out what happens here. This was ticking along nicely, but in some of the other stories that were also ticking along and it wasn't that interesting, this still retained my interest, and I'm very, very excited to see what happens next week. So it feels like it's building up to something. Before we move on, do you want to say what you noticed in the bar?
Well, I always like to see Jenny sitting on her throne behind.
Yes.
As the queen of the rovers.
A la Bet Lynch.
Yeah, she's got her little chair that she sits on, which is not dissimilar to the chair that our laptop is
currently balancing on
as we record this. And then along comes
Daisy,
gosh, dragging a slightly smaller chair as the princess
chair
sitting next to her. And
I thought that was great.
I thought it was really, I really like this.
Yeah. Although to be honest, if I was Gemma or Sean or something, I think I'd have my nose put out a joint.
Oh, what's this? A nepo baby?
Well, it is, isn't it? Really, she's been working there for year and a half or so, maybe, and now she's literally second in command, whereas Sean's been working there for the best part of 20 years or so. I'd be put out if I was him.
And he's still only junior barmaid.
He is. Right, let's whiz past. Let's whiz through these final stories then. So we got the Faye storyline, Gemma. You enjoyed Faye's stuff last week. I mean, last year. How did you find it this week?
Let me tell you what happened.
Go on then.
Michael puts his foot in it because he's going on about having a kid, and then he's like, "Oh, sorry, I know you can't have a kid." And Faye's like, "Shut up, I don't care. Leave me alone. I'm happy as I am." Later on, Faye tells Sally the reason she's been snappy about it is because Jackson's been in touch. Now, Jackson is the father of Miley, and the Hodges, his mum and dad, took him and Miley to Canada.
Yes, so Faye gave birth. I think, was it like 7 years they gave us the time frame in this week's episode? It feels like yesterday.
Feels like not that long ago.
It really, I remember talking about, and we were like really into that storyline and with Craig and everything. So it's so funny.
So she gave the baby up voluntarily. She didn't want to raise the child, and they wanted to take the baby. So, but now he's back, and he wants to get in touch with Faye again, and she's not happy about this. She doesn't want to talk to him. She deletes the message. And Sally's like, "Why did you do that? You could play a part in Miley's life." And Faye says, "Look, I don't know how I'd feel. I don't want to think I want a child. I can't take back what I've done. I'm happy with my decision, but I don't want to be made to regret it." She's thinking, if I see my child, I might then wish I could have one. And I've already decided I can't. I know I can't. I've gone through this early menopause. I'm infertile. I don't want to stir up any feelings.
Exactly.
So she tells Sally not to tell Tim or Craig, but that doesn't mean that Sally's not going to try to meddle anyway.
Sally's like, "Don't worry, neither of them are in it this week.
So don't worry, they won't care."
I've checked the call sheet. We haven't got either of them.
Thursday, Faye is telling Sally that she doesn't want to see Miley, just so we remember. And then Sally offers to babysit Glory for Michael so that she can trick Faye into wanting to contact Jackson.
Devious plot.
So Sally takes Glory home, and when Faye comes downstairs, Sally's like, "Hello? I'm getting a phone call. What's that, Tim? I must go right now. Okay, sorry, Faye, I've got to leave you and the baby."
Faye knows straight away that she's faking, doesn't she?
So Sally gets back, and I thought this was quite sinister. Sally comes back, and Faye's there. Where's the baby?
Very good point.
Faye's like, I'm super serious when I told you I didn't want a baby, and to prove it, I've put Glory in the bin.
Flushed her down the loo.
So she says, I know what I don't want, and I know what I want, and I don't want a kid. Stop trying to manipulate me.
Yes.
And Sally's like, oh, I can't believe I was that transparent.
So do you think that she does not want a kid?
It's very...
There's no way of her having a kid naturally, is there? But there is always the option of adoption and fostering, or murdering Jackson so she can have Miley back. But what do you think? Does she want one?
It's such a shame that Jackson's not a young mother, because he'd be dead now.
Yeah, I know.
I don't know.
I'm thinking that she's probably gonna see Miley, and then
now they've mentioned it.
It might, twinge something inside that little heart of hers. I thought it was quite refreshing that she has currently still sticking with the view of I don't want this kid, rather than the maybe more predictable route of her going, oh yeah, every night I lay there at night and I think about Miley. It's always refreshing because there's so many characters that just naturally, want to have a kid, and this is showing that not all young children, not all young adults want to have a kid.
I know, but Coronation Street won't let this go. I don't think Coronation Street believes that a woman could not want a child.
I know, I do kind of get the feeling that at the end of the storyline she's going to have a child.
She's going to learn a lesson that every woman needs a baby.
Yeah. I don't know how, and I don't know who. I don't want Jackson to be killed off.
It would be so refreshing if Faye was met up with Miley and said, I'll send you a Christmas card, it's 20 quid, I missed your birthday last year, anyway, see you later. And then she went, great, fine. I mean, Faye's acting like, I've decided I don't want children because I can't have children, and it's easier for me to say I don't want them.
Yeah.
And it's not just Coronation Street that does this either. Every single fiction, I feel like almost every single time I see anything in fiction where there's a woman who hasn't got a baby, instead of it being just that's the fact, it's like, that's a challenge. Don't you think?
Yeah, I know what you mean. What did you think about what Sally's behaviour?
Sally's
trying to manipulate
weird
because,
her. It's in a way, she's trying to get a grandkid out of her.
Yeah. Yeah,
but
basically.
It's not actually, she's not biologically related to Faye, but she's married to Tim, who's Faye's dad. She doesn't really see her as a daughter that much, but she is in a sense.
No, it's weird because I look at the relationship between Sally and Faye and think they don't have ever anything to do with each other. Why is Sally being so motherly towards her? But then I'm also thinking, well, off screen, what we're not seeing, Sally's and Faye have been living together for years now. And I think, maybe she would naturally feel a bit more maternal towards her than we might expect, depending on how much screen time they've shared.
Sally's relationship feels a bit more like the relationship you would have with a step-parent that you met as an adult.
Yeah.
But Faye met Sally when she was much, much younger.
Yeah, Faye was like 14 when she came into the show.
I don't know if that's a transitional period in your life, so perhaps she doesn't really think of Sally as a mother figure. Because she already had a mum. Yeah,
she did. And speaking of which, I mean, this is the problem that Corrie have to contend with. Whenever they have a story where parents probably would naturally be around, or they'd come round to visit or whatever, but we're not having Anna Windass back on the show, are we, presumably?
Right, let's move on.
Anyway, fine.
Sorry, but we're running... You said you didn't want to talk about it. You're not having Anna Windass back, so Sally's got a medal where she can, and... I don't want to talk too much about it because I really think this is just reminding us. It is.
It's going to build into something, and I assume we'll have Craig Pitters to Halfpenny in next week as well. So the Bill storyline was literally, I don't know whether this should be part of another storyline or what, but Kevin gets a phone call on Thursday, to say that his dad, lovely Bill, has had a heart attack. And he needs to go over to Germany to go and sort him out. And Debbie finds out. And even Carl, the third Webster sibling, gets a mention, doesn't he? So this is the half-brother of Kevin, who's Bill's the dad of Carl. And the woman who, Elaine, was it, that Bill married after... When Kevin and Debbie were... Not that Elaine. When Kevin and Debbie were teenagers, he had another kid with him. So that was weird, and I think probably I'm going to say 95% of viewers are going to say, who on earth's Carl there?
A lot of people are going to say, who's Bill?
He's never even been in the show. Well, possibly. It's been a long time. It's been a good 10 years or so, hasn't it? Peter Armitage.
Played Bill has died 5 years ago.
Yeah, he died in 2017, I think. So he's not going to be coming back for this storyline.
Well, it was interesting that they've decided to kill him off the character now, because you would think that if you hadn't mentioned it in the show, you're saving it for a reason.
Yeah, there's got to be some.
What's this reason? Is it to get either of these actors some time off work? Because we know Coronation Street likes to do a very clumsy write-out sometimes.
But neither Mike Lavelle nor Sue Devaney need time off work.
You have no idea what you're talking about.
Sorry, I'm saying for because they have appeared in lots of episodes. You're absolutely right. They could have some other reason for it, but it's not like they need a break from all the scenes that they've been in recently.
But I will say, neither Kevin nor Debbie need to be written out, because we didn't see them anyway, so why would we? I mean, Abby wasn't in it for 5 months, and she didn't get written out.
I'm wondering whether they're going to bring in the character of Carl. Not that they need another character at all.
Well, that could be good. Another Webster.
Another Webster, possibly.
Well, what are they doing? Yeah, what are they doing this for?
I don't know. Is it going to be another way of Kevin getting more money? I mean, Debbie does need more money at the moment, and Bill, he could have amassed a fair amount, couldn't he? Because he's been, business owner and everything.
Everybody's rich.
Is it going to be to do with family bonding? I don't know. But it did at least serve one purpose, which was to remind viewers that Kevin and Debbie were brother and sister. Because you would be forgiven for having no idea about this, kind of the gruff, grumpy mechanic and the lavender-haired,
fierce businesswoman.
Like they never have any scenes together, do they? As brother and sister, they're not linked at all. So it's nice to have a reminder anyway.
If it's to bring back Rosie.
Let's hope. Speaking of brothers, Gemma, here's a nice segue.
Is this the last
Darian storyline? Almost. We got the slap.
Go on then.
No, this is you.
Is it me?
I've just talked about Bill for that epic storyline.
Right, so this is the brother. This is Darian and his brother.
Yes.
On Monday, Alia's still got PTSD. Maria tells Gary that this guy, the counsellor who got arrested last week,
Len,
said, I didn't know that I was using the money for funding racists.
Yeah.
And he's been banned from Twitter.
How embarrassing.
Not even Donald Trump's banned from Twitter still. Darian comes in and saying, my brother's in Nottingham and it's definitely him. But he can't get to the phone right now, so I've got to go there. I couldn't believe this. It seemed like it was very disorganised and nobody actually knew where he really was. But he also didn't have the contact details for anybody in Nottingham who could check. So he decides to go. So Darian says, no, Maria and Gary say, we'll pay for you to go to Nottingham. And he's like, oh no, I couldn't take any money. And then he even says, look, if I lost my family for 30 years, if somebody gave me money, I would bite their hands off. You need to take the money and do it and go. So he says, okay. And then I thought he was going to go to Nottingham and come back with his brother, but no, he's left. Apparently you can't come back from Nottingham. Or either that or Maria and Gary are like, we can only afford one way. So
Nick managed to come back from Nottingham when he was there with his Elsa a few years ago, wasn't he?
So they have a goodbye ceremony where they all eat stuff from Roy's rolls, and Maria does a little speech and he does a little speech, and then Nina gives him a bag and a gift, and he just shoves something else on top of it.
Shoves
and
some
doesn't even look at what it is,
doesn't he?
He's like, thanks, I've got to go.
Got something important to do, which is going to say goodbye to Alia and saying, Alia, you're so brave. And she's like,
I know.
I do my best.
Nobody else thinks this. Why are you the only one?
Alia and Paul need to have a victim off, don't they?
Yeah.
Who's the biggest martyr of the street?
Is Paul going to write a victim personal statement about what Carla did?
Oh yes, he could, but no, he can't because he
can't
write with his dodgy hands.
I am really, and can I just say, Darian's gone, and I'm mad because we didn't get to see him reunite with his brother.
I feel really shortchanged here.
Why couldn't they have had this guy Mo, who was buying the suit?
Why couldn't that have been his brother? It would have been convenient,
really doesn't
but at least we'd have had a decent reunion.
We could have seen them hug, and then he could have gone, guys, Mo's got a flat in Nottingham, and I'm going to live with him.
That would have been a so much more satisfying ending.
Unless this isn't the end of Darian.
I don't know.
Why did we have a leaving ceremony where everyone gave speeches?
The tone of the scene is this is him leaving. And you're right, he could come back with Mo, but it was... Oh, not Mo, with his brother.
I mean, I was writing Darian
Didn't
out
work
a
for
million
me.
different ways. None of them were he goes to Nottingham and never comes back.
Yeah, because somebody happens to walk into the cafe saying, I happen to know where your brother is. That was like,
If you're
sorry,
gonna
the
have a coincidence-
racism storyline's over now. Max has been banged up.
We've solved racism.
Let's get rid of all of the superfluous characters. Sorry,
Sorry, Darian.
Sorry, Blake, you're gone. Sorry, racists, you're gone. Sorry, Darian, you're gone.
Yeah.
Right, finally, we had this slapper storyline. What a slapper.
Stop saying that.
What?
It's a slur.
No, it's not. It's
Sam
fine.
sees that.
Sam sees that Hope is down at the bus stop, and she says, "Oh yeah." She opens up and tells him about the Beth slapping her a few weeks ago, which is interesting because one might be forgiven for thinking that that slapping storyline had been kind of forgotten about, but it's still, it's still ruminating and it's still trickling about in Hope's head.
This reminds me of what happened with that time that Kevin decked John Stape.
Yeah.
And everyone was like, this is a normal soap scrap. And then he got arrested and put in prison. Nobody saw that coming. Nobody saw Hope actually being really affected by being slapped, and also it having ramifications for Beth either. Because she seems...
Beth seems on edge, doesn't she?
Yeah.
Because there's a bit where she walks past Hope at the bus stop and gives her like a sheepish little wave, as in like, "Are we still cool?" And she talks to Tyrone in the pub and said, "Hope's not been talking about that slap since she accused me of slapping her." Actually, and Tyrone's like, "Yeah, no, don't worry, she's not been going on about it." So Beth thinks she's in the clear, but Sam is telling Hope, over milkshakes later.
that
you need to tell people about this. You can't just go around slapping little girls, and you need to stand up for yourself. And Hope says, maybe I will next week, but it's Friday, so I think I'll wait until
Well, she
the
says
weekend's
people
over.
will think I'm lying, so I'm not going to.
Yeah, that's the problem, isn't it? Because she's got a case of the boy who cried wolf syndrome about her. People aren't going to believe her, but I'm sure they will eventually. It'll be fine. It'll be okay. Okay, so we will leave it until next week to find out what happens with that story, I'm sure. It is time to score this week's episodes, Gemma. What is Stephen your character of the week?
Stephen or Teddy or Leo, I don't know.
You can't give
They're
it
all
to
part
Teddy
of-
or Leo.
They're all part of Stephen because they came from his imagination. Unless we're going to say they really were ghosts. Which I'm 50-50
I
on.
don't know whether to give it to... Stephen or give it to Amy this week. I very much enjoyed both of them. I think that it's a bit of a tie for me, but because Stephen has been up there quite a lot in recent weeks, and I really, really did enjoy it. But I also enjoyed Amy an awful lot, and I'm sure that in future weeks you may well be up there again for me. So. Couple of good choices, but Amy is what I'm going for, and I am going to score. See, this is difficult with this week's storylines, isn't it? There were a couple of really, really great ones, and a lot of fluff. But I think with the way that the final scene tonight in Aaron and Amy's flat played out, the way that all the ridiculousness of Stephen's LSD trip, and like that I just sat back and enjoyed. I think I'm gonna give this one 4 evil eye amulets out of 5, and this one's pointing right there at you, Aaron.
This was what Bernie wore because she thought Carla might curse her.
Yes, that's exactly right.
I was gonna give this 3.5.
Oh, really?
Because I if it was just the Stephen and the Aaron and Amy storyline, I would be given that 4.5, nudging 5, honestly. But we just talked through so much guff.
It just felt like a lot of setught for other things.
That's what it was. Like Friday, I was like, oh no, we haven't done any of this. Quick, put it all in. I'm not fussed on a lot of the other things. But that's okay. It all evens out at the end, isn't it?
Maybe I should go for a 3.5.
No, don't. I'm going to give it 3.5.
I'm going to go with my gut.
What is it then?
Yeah, no, 4. I've said it now.
Yeah, good. 4 for you and 3.5 rhubarb and custard wedding cakes for me.
Yeah,
and the half
you can have it
that's
all yourself.
Missing is for you.
No.
Because you're not having it.
Oh yeah, no, I'm not having it. I'm not having that.
I'm having 3.5 and you're having the half that's missing.